out in the rain getting all the good stuff, with the Super Bowl practices. So
Yeah.
it's going to be indoors right now.
Yeah, speaking of kind of toughing it out, I didn't feel too well this morning or last night, but you saved the day. Austin Lane saving the day on the road. He got a workout in this morning. Who's better than him? I mean, I wasn't waking up and getting a workout in, but he got about an hour and a half workout in at the YMCA locally, and then decided to call and say, "Hey, do you need a something from Starbucks?" And Starbucks like pet me up, man. I mean, I was like, man, got a couple sips of coffee, felt a lot better, and here I am.
So yeah, obviously, I consider myself kind of like an intern still. This is this is kind of like my second week working here, so I feel like I have to do all the small things. Call Brett, make sure his coffee situation is good. What was the order that you had again? Because it was the most aggressive coffee order that I've ever experienced. I thought you were joking with me, honestly, when you texted me all that. And I thought it was like some kind of inside joke that I don't get because I don't drink coffee. What was that order?
So here's the conversation. This is happening about 8 o'clock this morning. And Austin texts me, says, "Hey, you guys want anything from Starbucks?" I said, "A venti hot hazelnut Pike Place coffee with cream. Thanks." He said, "Marcel, care to challenge with an even more overly aggressive name for a cup of coffee?"
I'm gonna be honest, man. Like that was a mouthful, and
welcome to Starbucks.
I guess so. And like I told you, I thought it was kind of like a joke. I thought I was getting punked or something like that. But I went through the drive-through. I relayed your order, and the guy kind of just shook his head, like, "Yeah, fam, I got you." I'm like, "Okay," so it was all good then. But I thought for sure I was getting punked or something.
Well, here's the deal. I've always said this, Bob. So I was a Dunkin' Donuts guy big time, and I love Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, I grew up with one on every street corner in the great state of Rhode Island. But I'm now a Starbucks coffee guy because they seem to be closer to me, or I just like it now. I've grown to like it. But I've always said this: I don't think I'll ever get used to saying, "Can I have a venti or a grande cup of coffee?" Can we just go with large, medium, small? Do we have to do it that way? Like, there's something uncomfortable about saying it. So I understood the position you were in today.
Well, and it was kind of a hard position, too, because we actually went back to Starbucks later, and you had to get some more coffee.
Yes,
and in the process of doing that, I kind of made the observation where there's a lot of coffee snobs out there that, have to have their order exactly right. There's some guys that are, kind of weren't satisfied with the order, so they returned it, in which case I made the comment, a lot of snobs out there, in which case I got a green tea, and I asked for ice in it, and then I made that comment about being a snob. Well, the tea was far too hot for my taste buds, so I actually had to send the tea back and get more ice cubes. So I kind of fell in that category a little bit. I kind of embarrassed myself in front of the work crew, but hopefully they can look past that.
Yeah, it's okay. It just happens. I mean, you got to go with a big, deep order at Starbucks when you do it. So we got our coffee. We're feeling a little bit better. Still a little stuffed up, fighting something, but that's all right. We are rocking and rolling. That was a fun morning here at the Senior Bowl, wasn't it? I mean, you were playing reporter. You were playing Senior Bowl along.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a pretty good setup. A lot of guys on podiums. You got a chance to talk to a variety of players from both the North and South team. And bam, it's underway. Like yesterday was kind of a prelim, but now we've got the real deal. The Senior Bowl is underway. In fact, practice is happening right now.
Yeah, got a lot of great interviews. I kind of wish I would have went back to Murray State and worked on my TV broadcasting, so set aside from the radio broadcasting, because it's different than talking on the radio. I mean, if you're in front of a camera, you kind of have to present yourself a certain way. You have to ask questions a certain way compared to radio. So some of the conversations, obviously, I'm still in my radio mindset. They got a little awkward. I had some fun with the guys. And let's not lie, it's a high-stress situation here. I mean, they're putting in their new installments with the playbook right now. They're seeing terms and schemes that they've never really seen before. So it's a high-pressure situation. And then on top of that, you have 200 media members asking questions, trying to pull you each way. I just try to have as much fun as possible, because being here, that's what I really enjoyed, was the guys that kind of had the outside-the-box questions. So that's obviously what I asked a lot.
Yeah, you're the outside-the-box question guy, which makes for fun. And we'll have some of the personality interviews along the way. We'll also get serious and talk some quarterback situations with Ryan Finley and also Drew Lock coming up in just a couple of moments. But and you do have to be ready for your TV skills, because we are also on Twitter at Brent A.S. Jacks. We're also on YouTube on the Action Sports Jacks channel. And we are also on Facebook on the ESPN690 channel on video. And I believe we've come up with a better situation. We got away from the windows, the sun, the halo effect. It looks a little bit better today. Although I must say right now, I have some how do I put this nicely? like snot dripping down my nose. That's probably not a good thing for the video stream.
Post-nasal drip, I think they call that.
Post-nasal drip.
Yeah,
it's happening. I need to use my shirt. Yeah. And then I'll get a Kleenex or a tissue during the break.
Well, being a lot happening. Being the intern that I am, I can get you that Kleenex, sir. I can get you that tissue if you need it. And I can also get, someone give you some antibiotics or whatnot, need be. I'm here for the family. I'm here for you.
Appreciate it. All right. Again, some of the takeaways. We've got a lot of quarterbacks here. We've got 8 quarterbacks at this thing. I feel like we don't have a lot of star playmakers, but we're searching for them at wide receiver and tight end. We'll talk to a couple of those. But these practices that are about to get underway, they're about to become very important to see who will kind of separate themselves, who will look good, who can we follow the next phase of this, whether it's at the combine or pro days or whatever else. There's a lot of draft stock to be gained for so many of these guys. You found that out firsthand almost a decade ago.
Well, especially the small school guys, because, obviously watching film is the biggest thing, and what you put on film is what the scouts see the most. With these small school guys, sometimes they play against talent that's, not to the level of an SEC or a Big Ten or even like a Pac-10. So this is really their first opportunity, the small school guys, to kind of get on the field, go against better talent, and show what they have. So that's why obviously I'm here to see like the stars too, but I'm also seeing like Anthony Isabella from UMass, Anthony Johnson from Buffalo, the small school guys, or guys from, I don't say small school guys because they're bigger schools, but guys from programs that don't play necessarily the best talent that have a chance to show out right now at the Senior Bowl, and kind of get the first taste of NFL practice.
Yeah, and then there's guys you're like, where do you fit in the NFL, right? Like Deebo Samuel, where does he fit in the NFL as a wide receiver? Like, is he a special teams guy and then like a fourth wide receiver guy? Is he a slot guy, which has become so popular? Like, how electrifying can he be at the NFL level? Or like a Hunter Renfrow, who was so reliable for Clemson during this run the last 4 or 5 years. Well, but somebody said on Twitter, they saw a picture of him, it looked like he was my financial advisor. I mean, he looks all of like 160 pounds, man. I mean, how does he fit on Sunday?
Well, I'll tell you what, with a name like Deebo Samuel, and I'm going to tell him he can go wherever he wants, because they call him Deebo for a reason. We can get into that later. But watching him play, obviously his only knock is injuries. It's staying healthy, it's staying on the field. But you talk about a guy who's got that linebacker, that safety mentality of, following through on the blocks and not having that deep mindset of wide receiver. This is a guy with bad intentions, can obviously run the route tree as well. So Deebo Samuel's a guy I'm definitely keeping an eye on here at the Senior Bowl.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk more about Deebo Samuel, some of the offensive playmakers potentially here in Mobile, Alabama. But coming up next, I thought the most impressive guy of the morning was, I'll fill in that blank and we'll hear from him, and I'll give you a hint. It's a quarterback. Coming up next, live from Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl on Action Sports Jacks on ESPN690. No, I got it. Can you hear like that music pretty good?
I hear you music.
Yeah, that's
Brent's going to the bathroom. Okay, I'll have him do that because I'm not quite sure how to do that, so I'll let him do that for me when he gets back. Okay. Okay. He was, yeah, Drew Lock from the zoo. Yep, no problem. Okay. The bathroom's right by us, so we should be all right, but yeah. Cool.
Highway 301, half mile north of Walmart. I'll be waiting for you. And remember, at any Murray Superstore, it's all about you. Shazam! There are those who play the blues. Then there's Chicago's electric blues legend, the one and only Buddy Guy. And it goes down Saturday, March 23rd at the Florida Theater.
All right, he's coming back. Yeah. Hey, Brent, Koo said turn down my mic just a smidge. So I don't know.
Turn down
mine. Yeah, turn down my mic a little bit.
All right. Hey, yeah, and you can tell me that during the break, so make sure everything sounds good. I'm sorry, during the whole segment, if you need to. All right, so you're coming out of the gates with Drew Lock talking about cheating on the test. How long is that? Okay, and then we'll bring it back. We'll start talking about Drew Lock, and then I'll also I'll toss to a soundbite that you'll play the other one about the love of football or something. Yeah, you've got another one, right?
Another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger. 2 if you're very overweight. And 3 if you're really overweight. You've just taken the world's first cardio pre-diabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit doihaveprediabetes.org or talk to your doctor.
Talking about the happy hour one.
Can be reversed.
Yes. Are you doing anything with that ball?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay, so
if you want to, come back in.
For Action Sports Jacks on ESPN690, we hit the road to Mobile, Alabama in the Senior Bowl. I was a 2010 alum scoring touchdowns.
Okay, let me know. I can stall on that.
I'm going to give you some Jags insider information. Who the Jags looking at? Who's looking good after that Super Bowl practice?
Yes, the cheating on the test. And then you let me know.
Last time I was at the Senior Bowl, I tried to tackle a keg and didn't go so well. I tried to redeem that 3-6 on ESPN690.
Dove into who you are as a player and off the field. I've gotten some crazy questions about little things that happened in high school involved. Might have cheated on a math test my freshman year, and that got brought up. Ended up with a C in that class. My mother was not happy. It was a geometry.
That's Drew Lock talking about the questioning that goes on here at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, and get used to it because there's a lot of those kind of questions. It was a fascinating story when it comes to Drew Lock because he was taking us through the process a little bit, and if you didn't catch it in there, he got called into like the principal's office or something like that back in 9th grade. And so somebody in one of these interviews noticed that, but the school wouldn't release exactly why he got called into the principal's office. And so, I mean, that's doing your homework, man. Getting the guy back in 9th grade, what happened to him? And so he said, yeah, I got caught cheating on the test. And that was the only time I did it. But and then he explained how his mom said he got a C and she didn't like that. But I mean, dang, they go that deep on this research.
Thorough. Yeah, I mean, I think the last question he expected today was something from 9th grade. Props to whoever the media person was that asked that question, because that definitely.
I think it was one of the coaches.
Oh, one of the coaches?
Yeah, no, that's what he's telling some of these interviews.
Okay.
Some of the interviews that happen, not from the media.
Yeah.
We don't go that deep.
They do their due diligence for sure.
Yeah, well, and think about it. Some people might say, yeah, I kind of wish they were like that with a guy like Justin Blackman.
Very true.
And I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying, hey, did they do enough on a guy like Justin Blackman to waste a top 5 pick on a guy that never really played again? And again, I believe this guy was a Pro Bowl talent, and he would have been very good in the NFL. But did they do enough research, or did they take the gamble? Only questions that the scouting staff and Gene Smith and those guys could answer.
And don't get me wrong, hindsight's 20/20. I mean, you kind of read the reports when Blackman got in trouble that there were teams that were kind of turned off on him, with the fact that he had some drinking issues and whatnot. I mean, it always begs the question: is the juice worth the squeeze? And sometimes we have a player with that high caliber of talent. You're gonna roll the dice a little bit and see what happens. And unfortunately for the Jaguars, they rolled the dice, and when they had him, performed great on the field, but then obviously fell into some trouble outside the field and really cost them in the draft.
Well, it's not worth rolling the dice when you're talking about franchise QBs in that sense. And in my opinion, I think you need the guy that's going to be a leader. You know he's going to be there. He's reliable. You don't have to worry about the Johnny Manziel stuff. The Baker Mayfield stuff, although I think it's a little bit misled on the Baker Mayfield stuff. I think that was more like, hey, he did a couple of things. And obviously Cleveland took a chance on that. So it's really not fair to put him in the category of Johnny Manziel. Manziel was totally different. But that was a big gamble to do that with Manziel, knowing what you knew, and obviously didn't pan out. So I think at the quarterback position, you have to be much more secure. Your investment in that position is so strong. And I will tell you this. I mean, it was 10 minutes, right? Spent 10 minutes around Drew Lock today. To me, he was the most impressive guy. We talked to a bunch of different guys. We listened to a bunch of players talk. We listened to mostly all the quarterbacks. Will Greer was going to talk after practice. He was like the only one we didn't really listen to. And I came away feeling Drew Lock was very impressive. I think he's going to handle himself very well in the interviews. again, that's a total separate thing of how he is as a player.
So when you were watching Drew Lock and everything, because unfortunately I couldn't see the interview, I was busy, to kind of chase my own interviews and whatnot. The sense that I got from researching Drew Lock is that the guy plays with a chip on his shoulder. This is a guy that his junior year in college threw 44 touchdowns, went to the NFL advisory board, and basically they told him, listen, you're not a first-round pick. You might have thrown a lot of touchdowns, but the fact that, you went to Mizzou and didn't really, I guess, have the career they're expecting, and they basically told him, listen, you're going to be a second to third round pick if you come out right now. So he opted to go back his senior year, did pretty well. But what is your feel with Drew Lock? I mean, do you sense that chip on his shoulder trying to prove everybody wrong? I mean, that can take you far in the NFL.
I do think so. He was asked about his passing efficiency in terms of his accuracy and completion percentage. And I thought he brought up a good point. He said, he went through 3 different offensive coordinators and went through a bunch of different things because Gary Pinkel retired. And so he had to adjust. And then he got into this kind of more pro-style offense in the last year. And if you look at his completion percentage, it was 63% or 62.9 here in 2018, by far his best completion percentage. But he brought you back to a point and said, hey, we can get wrapped up in numbers. But somebody told him a deeper dive into his previous year or previous 2 years, they threw more pass attempts over 50 yards than anybody else in the country. Well, that's going to obviously bring down your completion percentage in relation to a player that might be dinking and dunking and just trying to throw accuracy ball 8-yard outs and that kind of deal. So I get his point. He's going to defend himself in that regard. And I think you got to be a little careful to get wrapped up in college numbers. I think you got to get a little careful to wrap up in college anything when it comes to the QB position. In your eyes, how different is the college game, even though we're starting to morph into the college game in the NFL a little bit? How different is it?
I mean, from a defensive end perspective, obviously it's very different. You're talking, especially from my perspective, where I was coming from a smaller school, I played the Senior Bowl and played in the NFL. You're talking offensive linemen, in the NFL that are all at least 305 pounds, got great technique, great footwork. So I think it shows your inconsistencies a lot. Like the biggest thing I had to work on was I had the power, I had the strength, but I had to work on just my fundamentals, like getting the guy's hands off. I mean, sometimes you're so focused on doing the big things, right, that you kind of forego the small things. So especially from a quarterback position where you're learning about, different schemes of defense and whatnot, it's super important that you take your time processing it.
Hey, that was my bad. I turned down the wrong one.
And Saints fans will be heard after the refs missed an obvious pass interference call that probably cost the Saints a trip to the Super Bowl. Angry fans have reacted with online petitions.
I guess you're on one. I thought I was on one.
Actual lawsuits.
Okay, so that's part of the problem then.
To prepare for the team that beat the Saints, and Mike Golick on ESPN690 this morning thinks it's time for the Pats hate to just stop.
My God, what?
Nah, we're fine. I think we're fine, except the only thing is I thought I was on.
Of what they're doing, maybe instead of hating on them, we appreciate what they're doing because it's going to be gone.
If I turn down, the other thing is watch out in the breaks. Apparently, we're leaving the audio up. So if I turn, I guess maybe when I turn these, I can't turn down this main one. Like if I turn that down, you couldn't hear Austin talk anymore. That must run the whole thing. That's interesting. Okay.
I can't hear you either, Brent. Oh.
You're not hearing me in the
I didn't
headphones?
hear you at all.
All right, we're going to have to try to figure out some of the...
Action Sports Jacks here on ESPN 690, and we've got your chance to win some tickets to March
okay.
Jacksonville Memorial Arena. All you need to do is enter this secret word on our sister station,
it says audio speakers are muted, so
the secret word is
maybe we just forgot to turn that down.
The word is bench.
You may never need to walk through our door, but if you do, you may need more than just advice. You're hurt and scared, but I want you to know that you can talk to us about anything. We will get together so that we can tell your story together. We will stand with you every step of the way as your attorneys. And we will always have your back, no matter what.
My bad.
No, you're good.
I don't understand why. So, Justin, you hearing both of us now, bud?
Mic check, 1, 2, mic check. Yeah, I can't hear you at all.
And you can't hear me at all?
I can't hear you at all, no. It was buzzing for a little bit, then it just went out.
And just keep your ear maybe open like that.
Yeah.
Last year, when he became the first one-handed player to be drafted to the NFL. Doors open at 10 a.m. on February 9th. This community event features exhibits and demonstrations, followed by a conversation with Shaquem Griffin. Register now at brookcelebrate.org. Get off to a great start with a great deal on any new vehicle in our lineup. Jacksonville, Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, Bay. Drive a brand new Jeep Cherokee from as low as $219.
I don't know. That's definitely back at your end because it says right now speakers are muted. Okay. I mean, it's not a big deal. We'll just watch what we say during the breaks.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it can be dangerous too, but.
Jacksonville, Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, doing our best for every customer every day. I-295 and Bank Meadows.
Okay.
From the NBA to the NFL,
So, Brent.
we've got you covered. The worldwide leader in sports. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690.
You watch Action Sports Jacks on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jacks is on your radio.
All right, apologies for that. I screwed up. I was trying to turn my volume down
Yeah.
so nobody would hear me blow my nose.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I was trying to be good to the listener.
Yeah.
Well, when I turned the volume down on this machine, which I'm not super technically savvy, and I still have not figured out quite why, because I think that's my microphone that I was turning down, but I turned you down too. So
Okay,
then Kuz back in the station was like, oh, we lost him, which good play by him, right? I think he
Great
played
play.
a little Drew Lock,
Yeah.
which we were going to play
Yep.
in the show about his love for the game of football. So you heard that. And then a smart guy back there, good producer, goes to a break. So
Nice job, Kuz.
But that was all me. That was my bad.
Well, I was wondering what was going on because I was kind of going on rants about, coming from college to the pros and what kind of transition you have to
Yeah, I
make.
didn't hear a
And then
dang thing you said.
and then
Nobody
all-
else
yeah.
did either.
Well, then all of a sudden, I just got a bunch of noise in my ears. So I didn't know if I broke something personally. What happened?
Well,
But-
and this is going to test us a little bit, right? I mean, we're on the road. I'm playing hurt a little bit. I feel fine, really, but I'm going to play that up just so I feel
Most
like
nasal drips,
so it's tough.
it's a mother.
And on the stream here, which we say hello to everybody,
Yeah.
one weird thing that's happened tonight, and I've gotten a couple of comments about it, is our audio is up during the breaks. But we've been
Oh.
able to turn that down
Yeah.
in the past. Like yesterday we did.
Yeah.
So now we have to be really careful what we say during the break. So all these times that we say bad things about Kuz back in the studio,
Yeah.
or
Or
I
just
say
cuss
something
in
about
general.
Stewart or Marcel,
Yeah.
or we just say stuff we probably shouldn't say.
Yeah.
You got to be a little careful now. What's going
Am
on?
I getting hazard pay for this point?
No.
No? This
No.
is just part of the gig.
No, this is a test, man. We're at the Senior Bowl. This is a test.
This was not in the job description where I had to mind my mouth even during the commercial breaks, but I'm going to try my best here.
So we'll figure that part out. But let's get back to the conversation. Apologies for that. That was my bad.
No, all good.
Pushing it out. Well, I'm not apologizing to you. I'm apologizing to the listener. I don't care what you think about it.
No worries.
And day number 7 of the show, you're going to have these things. It's going to happen. But we were talking about Drew Lock, and I think you heard from him a couple times. I once again, to kind of wrap up my point on him from this morning, I just thought, to me, he's the most impressive guy that we talked to, that I heard from. I think he's going to handle this part of it really well. But now you go back to your point about adjusting to that NFL game from the college game, because it's totally different. It is. I go back to a conversation I had with Maurice Jones-Drew. This isn't quarterback play, but with Maurice Jones-Drew a few years back, he was like, I can play in the league longer probably. Now, it didn't really pan out for him, but he was talking about the style. I can play in the league longer because there's not a lot of guys that just run downhill and pick up 4 yards. The game has changed. Everybody's running outside, and everybody's trying to get in open space. Well, at times you still need a guy that can run 2 or 3 yards down the field. They don't do that in the college game, was his point.
Yeah.
Now, you can argue whether he's right or wrong, but his point was the college game, they don't do that. They spread everybody out. Very few teams just run downhill, and so you are not creating that style of back. Well, when it comes to the quarterbacks and the offenses, it's the same type of deal. I mean, that is a totally different game. We're starting to see elements creep into the NFL because, why? The NFL has realized that it's such a different game that we better use some of these guys we're investing a lot of draft pick stock in, and we better be able to use them and play to their strengths rather than have them try to adjust to the way the NFL game should be played, which is totally different than what they just played for the last 2, 3, 4 years of their college career. It's a huge adjustment, even still, even with some of those adaptations for a college QB to get to the NFL.
And especially here at the Senior Bowl, I mean, I mentioned it today, John Gruden, I mean, having him as a coach for the Senior Bowl, it's got to be a whirlwind just because that guy has so much terminology and so many different schemes and stuff that, these college quarterbacks really aren't familiar with. So that's why the Senior Bowl is so great, is that it gives the players, number one, a chance to see what an NFL offense actually, how it operates, things you got to know, checks you got to make. And number two, then the scouts and everything, they can see that. They can see, will this quarterback do good in this offense? Can he fit into my schemes and things like that? So from a quarterback standpoint, I mean, the Senior Bowl is obviously huge.
Absolutely, and it's huge for Drew Lock because he gets a chance. Really, you are on a stage with 7 other quarterbacks, and all these quarterbacks get to separate themselves a little bit, whether it is in an interview that most of the folks won't see and we won't hear, or, and I'm not talking with the media, I'm talking with coaches and scouts, or is it a throw they make? Is it one throw that catches the eye of John Gruden or Kyle Shanahan or one of the Jags scouts and says, whoa, I remember that, I don't forget that, and that means, bam, he starts climbing the board a little bit more than a Daniel Jones or more than a Tyree Jackson, who we'll talk with a little bit later. So that's why this is such a big week for these guys, because the more of those kind of moments, the more that stock starts to rise.
And make no mistake about it, this is a high-pressure environment here. I mean, imagine being a quarterback, Brent, and you're throwing to guys that you've never even heard of before sometimes. I mean, you're throwing to brand new guys. Usually, if a quarterback gets drafted by a team, he's going to report early to training camp and whatnot. He's going to build that camaraderie with wide receivers. Here at the Senior Bowl, it's a free-for-all. You meet your teammates, and you go right at it. So the first day of practice, you might see some miscommunications just because you're not sure what these wide receivers are capable of if you're a quarterback. So it's something to keep an eye on, too, is the fact that how the quarterbacks handle the pressure, the environment, and obviously playing with a bunch of guys that they have really no experience playing with.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how Drew Lock and these guys handle that part of it. How much do you think? I was looking at Isabella, the wide receiver out of Massachusetts, was doing his interview today, and you could actually see the playbook open.
Yeah.
It was like I think it was like a mug route or something like that, or whatever. I have no idea what all that stuff means. But how hard is that part of it? You did it. You came in late.
Yeah.
And you're on the defensive side. With all due respect, a defensive lineman, defensive end, learning a playbook. Go get the quarterback.
Play a 5 technique, play a 7 technique, get the quarterback.
Yeah. So totally different, right, for the offensive guys to learn this system. And they keep it simple. There are rules they have to abide by. They're not going to get complex. Gruden was really funny on that. He said, good thing there are rules, or Kyle Shanahan would throw everything at us this weekend. But there are rules where they can't do trips, right? They got to go 2 by 2. They've got all these kind of concepts to keep it simple and easy and everybody on the same grading scale, I think, come Saturday during that game.
So when I played, the Senior Bowl back in 2010, we had the Detroit Lions coaching staff. Schwartz was the head coach. A guy by the name of Gunther Cunningham was the defensive coordinator. In that system, it was fun because we played 2 crash 9s basically. So if there's 2 tight ends on the line, we're in a 9 technique, basically stopping the run on the way to the quarterback. So they kind of let us spin our ears back a little bit, get after the quarterback, and then that was a fun system to play in. It was the first time I ever played in that. But you saw, Anthony Isabella's, the wide receiver from UMass. You saw his playbook today. And that was the first day install. I mean, make no mistake about it. There's going to be some more pages in that playbook after that. And it was about 50, 60 pages deep there, it seemed like. Thankfully, when I came in here, all I had to know was how to play 9 technique, how to play the 7 and playing the 5. And obviously, I picked up pretty easy off that. So I think being on offense, especially in Gruden's system, there are rules to help get the players in line and whatnot, but it's got to be a complicated chain of events there.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating to try to digest it. But it's a little. I think they'll have leniency in that, right? Because nobody digests a playbook in 3 days and says, okay, go play on Sunday. You have OTAs, you have camp, you have all these things that these guys will get involved in. But your ability to get on a board quick or be able to digest something that quickly certainly puts a little feather in your cap when you're, especially, I think, a quarterback or an offensive guy.
No, without a doubt. It's kind of like we talked about. Gruden's not going to throw the whole kitchen sink at these guys on their offense and everything. because there's no need to. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, you want to challenge players and you want to push them. You kind of want to get them uncomfortable. But you also want them to, when they go on the field, not have to think too much and just kind of be football players, because that's where they're going to shine. That's where you're going to find out who they are. So, obviously, I think overloading a player with schemes and offensive and routes and things like that, it's not what you want to do. Kind of want to give them just a basis to go off of. You want to challenge them a little bit. But at the end of the day, you got to let them be football players and not let them think so much.
Yeah, and play fast. Let's talk about John Gruden for a moment. I think, listening to him, watching the situation here today kind of set the scene for you. There are players on podiums, the coaches, each one, Shanahan from San Francisco 49ers and Gruden from the Oakland Raiders. They took the podium, and there were huge crowds around those guys, right? The head coaches asking all sorts of questions, from what happened in the Saints game on Sunday to everything else about this week and how they're going to approach this week and what they get out of this week. What is interesting to me, sitting there through John Gruden talking for a couple minutes, is just how much of a star he is. Like, you really can feel it. You can see it. Like, we knew it from TV, right? Everybody got to know him from when he was in that analyst role. And I think a lot of people liked him. Obviously, the critics would say he was so positive. But I think there's a magnetism to Gruden. There's a bigness to John Gruden that you could feel. I mean, I was there around his press table for about 5 minutes, and, man, you could feel it. You could see why Mark Davis and the Oakland Raiders said, hey, we want you back. We want you to, ignite our franchise. He's such a personality. And whether he's talking about a route for a wide receiver, officiating in a game, playing against Patrick Mahomes like he was earlier today, there's some kind of energy around him that makes him different. It's a different feel.
Well, it was great, at the Senior Bowl, we get a chance to meet some familiar faces and actually got a chance to talk with, Coach Greg Olson, who's now the offensive coordinator with them.
He just stopped by moments ago.
Stopped by, got to, talk to him a little bit. I haven't seen him in a while. I played with him in the Jaguars, obviously. He was on the other side of the ball, so I'm sure he was getting frustrated sometimes with me kind of, tapping the quarterback's balls and stuff like that, and causing some chaos when I should have been causing chaos in walkthroughs. Nevertheless,
you mean during a drill, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, during a walkthrough.
Just trying to digest. Thank you. Thank you.
Phrasing.
Just jumped in your car and you heard that.
Phrasing. I
gotcha.
was batting the ball. But anyways. Yeah, so with offensive coordinator Greg Olson, he even said it himself. He goes, Gruden's all about business when it comes to football. I mean, he loves the game. He makes it contagious and it's fun to be around. And that's something that you pick up. I mean, you saw it when you watched him, when he was commentating Monday Night Football, and you kind of see in the press conferences here and you see it on TV. It's a guy that truly loves football and obviously being on the offensive side of it.
And that soundbite you heard from Drew Lock as we were kind of going to break a little earlier than expected, maybe 10 minutes ago, if you heard it, I had asked him that question because that's what he brought up about Gruden. He said he loves football. You could tell that staff loves football. They love to be surrounded by that. And that's something that we heard from Dave Caldwell over the years. I think Tom Coughlin preaches that. My point is, I think organizations preach that. What they figured out is you have to live it. You can't be. I think there's a little bit of Kyler Murray that I have a question mark about. Is he going on his Tuesday off day to take batting practice just in case the football thing doesn't work out because he needs to stay sharp in baseball as a top 10 pick, and he also has a future in that potentially, or as a dual sport guy? That doesn't mean he doesn't love football, but you have to be so devoted to the craft. You have to be so locked in that Gruden feels that way. I think that's what Greg Olson was saying. And I think that's what organizations are after, especially from their QB. And Drew Lock was talking about that, the hours spent in a day. I mean, sleeping in a cot at the stadium doesn't prove that you're a good coach. It doesn't prove that you love it more than the next guy. It doesn't prove that you work harder than the next guy. Those become fables sometimes. Those become kind of stories that I think get blown out of proportion. It's not necessarily relative to success. But the idea that is if you need a little extra work, if you need to stay with the OC a little longer, if you need to work with your wide receivers in the offseason, you want a guy that's passionate about that, committed to that.
And, you brought up a great point with Kyler Murray. You're not really sure where his head's at right now. But to kind of make a point, too, Russell Wilson's, he's going back to camp with the New York Yankees. I mean,
fair enough.
Are you going to question Russell Wilson's love for the game and things like that? So
But he's built up equity in that regard.
No, he has, and I get it. I mean, the guys that sleep on the cots, the college football coaches and things like that, that sacrifice the time, that sounds great and peach and everything, but it's about how you're using your time. There's some guys that can, that can analyze a game and get a coverage in place and a scheme in 2 hours. There's some guys that it takes them 6-7 hours. It's all about how you use your time. If you use it well, or if you're kind of wasting time and getting caught on the schematics of it. And, with Russell Wilson, I mean, I think that's a guy that he's got a high football IQ, obviously. The team responds well to him, and if he wants to go to the New York Yankees in the offseason or wherever, I think it's the Rangers or the Yankees now.
I think it was the Yankees. I thought he was with. Okay. Now he's done some different things before. He's taken he's taken a bat or two. Maybe it was the Rangers. You're right. That first time around. But I think he's kind of dabbled in a couple of them. Yeah. So, but your point is right on. I think that's a fair point too. That's a good point. Listen, Deion Sanders did it. Brian Jordan did it.
Bo Jackson, obviously.
Bo Jackson, but they weren't quarterbacks, right? Quarterback's a different animal. You have to show that you're not distracted, that nothing's taking you away. You are the leader of the locker room because you probably know more about that football team than anybody else, about the football scheme than anybody else, and you have to be looked at that way. And that's why quarterbacks go in at 5 a.m., and that's why they get paid the most, and that's why they're the franchise guys. So I think there is something to it from the quarterback position to be able to do that and be able to handle that role in that capacity. But it doesn't mean you're right. I think people do digest things a little quicker and differently and can move on to the next thing. I feel like Tom Brady, after all these years, probably spends a ton of time, but he also spends time with his kids and family and on vacation, and he balances that to the point where he's still going to his 9th Super Bowl.
And make no mistake about it, I mean, football, it's a high stressful environment. It doesn't matter if you're a quarterback, if you're a defensive end. I mean, it is one of the most stressful things you can ever put your body through. So it is important to get that vacation time, or if you're Russell Wilson, maybe go play some baseball and get your mind off the game for a little bit. And I think that's great, and that's what everyone needs to do with it in the NFL. But at the same time, I mentioned Kyler Murray. I mean, to play devil's advocate here, yeah, it's great that you're a multi-sport athlete, and I'm sure that carries over and helps you with football. But if your mind is still in baseball during the football season, that's where you start to run into problems. It's one thing to be out of season, focusing on baseball, maybe going to like a mini camp or whatever for a little bit, or training camp. But if you're on a team during the season where they're depending on you, double standards are in place, and your mind has to be on nothing but football.
Hunter Renfrow feels more like a financial advisor than he does an NFL guy playing on Sundays, but he's going to get a chance, it looks like, to play on Sundays after another national championship with Clemson. We catch up with the wide receiver who felt like he was there for a decade at Clemson playing for Dabo Swinney, and he talks about Trevor Lawrence and how special that guy is, and playing for Deshaun Watson and what he might be able to do in the NFL as a former walk-on at Clemson. Our conversation with him coming up, and then Malik Jackson at the top of the hour talks about being on the James Corden show Sunday night and doing some dirty dancing. That's next on ESPN 690.
Brent, if you want to get us on, we're here.
What's that, bud?
104.5 WOKV is now exclusively on 104.5 FM.
What's that, man?
News 104.5 WOKV is where you'll find the latest breaking news. First Alert Storm Center coverage.
Justin, what you got?
Alerts 690 is where you'll find the home of the worldwide leader in sports. ESPN 690.
Yeah, we got
featuring gold
David
and
Rabbit
yellow in the
something
morning.
that's out of there.
Yep.
And
Put that up.
Stephen A. Smith. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690.
Right in the back. Okay.
Peace of mind. It's one of the most important things we have. And sometimes the
Justin, you got Hunter Renfrow?
Glenn Levine from the law offices of Anna John Levine. If you've been injured in a slip and fall
I don't
accident,
know why
call
this
us
would
at
be.
904-600-4000.
Office in Jacksonville. Hey everybody, this is Brett Marino. If you've received a letter from the IRS and can't pay them, things can get bad quickly. The IRS can seize your bank account, garnish your wages, and place liens against everything you own. If this is you, contact J. David Tax Law, a local firm right here in Jacksonville. Your first step to stop IRS harassment is a no-cost consultation.
Thanks, dude.
Bro.
Oh, man. The floodgates are open.
Dude,
Don't look
yeah.
at
Payment plans are affordable for everyone.
I respect it, man. Playing through pain right now.
Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away. The fastest way to get started is to call
I lost Justin. I don't know where he is. Yeah, I got you now. Yep. You good on Hunter Renfrow? Okay. How about Hunter Renfrow? Do you have him for this block?
Are you suffering from ED or PE? Have Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra failed you? Men's Choice Medical Center can help today.
That's perfect. Yep.
Medications that are safe, effective,
okay.
and affordable, even with diabetes,
are we on
pressure, and
Facebook?
prostate issues.
Are we on Facebook? Yeah, I think we are.
Your love life. Results
Hey,
guaranteed.
Just remember, we're probably hot. So,
oh yeah.
Hello, everybody. During the break, I still don't know what's up with it. Like, it's weird because I think we're on time now. Like we're not delayed.
All over the internet. You know the ding-dong video cameras that are all the rage? Yeah. Reports are flooding in that engineers and
But I
executives
don't
at the
understand.
company had highly privileged access to camera feeds. Spying on customers. Really? Yeah. Just do an online search for doorbell spying. It's incredible. Wow. I spy with my little eye. Yeah. And since they've been bought out by that big mega corporation, you know customer surveillance can't be far behind. Can I say Big Brother is watching?
No. I'll toss to it.
I don't understand why these folks don't just get a safe touch system. Who's hacking or spying on those things? Yeah, well, that's another reason.
So I guess the only bad thing about the way we have Skype set up right now is that everybody can hear us during the break, which I don't know if that's a terrible thing. But it is if I start MFing you. Which I do like to swear during the break.
Yeah, I know. Same with me. So it's trying to censor myself as much as possible.
Plus, now everybody can hear me sniffle the entire time during the break.
Usually it's who am I going to call?
I can't wait to know this radio show today. I'm just going to let out a lace-filled tirade of just swearing, and it's almost like I have Tourette's or something when we're done here in 3 hours.
Call Bill Finley. See what our Golden Plunger service is all about. Call us or go to
Renfro, yeah.
plumbing.com.
Hi, it's Nathan from Gordon Chevy in Orange Park, where our no-bull pricing and
Renfro is
express sales
OW.
process will have you out the door in your new Chevy fast. No bull means transparent, easy to understand.
That's for Renfro, not on
the gimmicks
Twitter.
or fluffy add-ons that just slow the process.
What is that, French?
Fast, fair, and
Renfro?
transparent is what you can always
I don't know about that.
What would it be?
RENFROW?
Oh, I thought it was like. Okay, never mind. I thought it was like OE and not OW.
Chevy, find new roads.
From Daytona Beach to Brunswick, now ESPN can be heard loud and clear everywhere on one of the most powerful AM radio stations in Florida. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690.
So to kind of paint a picture right now with Brett Martineau, I mean, nose is just running off the charts. He's got the post-nasal drip. This almost reminds me of Byron Leftwich. Remember when he broke his leg his senior season at Marshall? And they were carrying him and everything?
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what this is like, except with me carrying you, though. You're just literally have a broken leg, but you're walking it off yourself. You're going to lead the team to a game-winning drive, man. This is one of the greatest performances I've ever seen, Brent. In sports or in sports radio.
This is the first time having the sniffles has been compared to having a broken leg.
But the great ones adjust.
So if you're watching on the video feed, this segment and show today is brought to you by Kleenex.
Yeah.
But appreciate you getting me some more. Hey, let's jump in on the national champs, Clemson. Let me get your thoughts on Clemson and Alabama. Both have won 2 national titles now in the last 4 years. In your opinion, is Clemson Alabama's equal right now just because of that?
I can't put them as the equal just yet. I think we're talking consistency. I mean, I think Alabama's still a little more consistent. Obviously, I picked Alabama to win the whole thing. You know, I thought Trevor Lawrence, being a young quarterback, was going to finally face some adversity, maybe kind of crumble under pressure. But with the way that he's playing, there's a reason to think that it's not going to be Clemson and Alabama next year again. You know, for whatever. Is it the 5th time coming up now?
5th time in the yeah, they met 4 straight years in the college football playoff, not necessarily all in the championship game.
Yeah.
So it was 4 straight years.
Yeah.
So it'd be a 5th time.
Yeah. So I think they're one national championship away from being on the Alabama level. I'm still going to lean towards Alabama a little more. Because, like I said, consistency. They've been the kings of the SEC for a while now. I mean, and granted, Auburn had a little run themselves, but Alabama's consistently up there.
What's interesting is Nick Saban has changed over his staff a bunch this offseason. They kind of had a reshuffling of the deck in his staff.
Every season.
And, well, it does every season, especially with the Sarkisians of the world and obviously the Lane Kiffins of the world. But this one a little bit more. There was some word out of Tuscaloosa that they needed to do that. I don't think it was a reaction to losing the championship game. I think there was a sense that needed to happen. Like there was something amiss between everybody. That they needed to change some positions to the point where actually they go out and get the defensive line coach from the Florida Gators, Sal Sunseri, and he's now on the staff in Alabama with Nick Saban. But what will be the telltale sign of where Clemson is and can be compared to Alabama and the stigma and the proud tradition of Alabama football, and that's all they care about in Tuscaloosa, which is probably true, is if Dabo Swinney has to make that decision when Nick Saban retires. Nick Saban retires someday down the road. They're going after Dabo Swinney, who played at Alabama. Does he go back home? Or does he stick it out and stay in a place that he has built from the ground up to be able to compete with the big boys and is now Alabama? That'll be a fascinating watch down the road and probably a tough decision to make.
Absolutely. And there's always talks, too. I mean, look at college coaches are going to the NFL. Who's to say Swinney might not take a shot in the NFL one day? I mean, obviously his big calling card has been recruiting lately, but from what I can garner, I mean, the players love to play for him. I think he's one of those players coaches where the players get him. He understands the players himself. So and it's not like that old school mentality that we've been talking about the past couple of days where you got a guy that can't relate to his players. I think Dabo can definitely relate to the players, and it would be interesting to see how he could pan on the NFL.
All right. Well, we caught up with Hunter Renfrow, the fantastic wide receiver. Felt like he was at Clemson forever, won a couple of national titles, played with Deshaun Watson, now played with Trevor Lawrence, played with Kelly Bryant in that mix too. He's played with some fantastic players, and I'm telling you, this guy looks 145 pounds soaking wet. You would, if he walked down the street here in Mobile, you'd never say, well, that guy's going to play on Sundays.
Thank God for name tags. Honestly, because I had no idea either.
It was fascinating. Here's our conversation with a fantastic wide receiver from Clemson.
Thank God for name tags. Honestly, because I had no idea either. It was fascinating. Here's our conversation with a fantastic wide receiver from Clemson.
Hey there.
Yeah. Hey, we can go into a Danny Woodhead story, too. Come on.
Hey, Jess Coos.
Hey there.
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't hear the interview being played.
I was excited when I first got it. We still had a month of the season left. We had 2 more games.
Yeah, now I hear it. Did it take a while for it to be played?
More focus on that, but this came quick. We played 2 weeks ago, and so it was a quick turnaround. But I'm excited. I'm excited to play with some of the best and play against guys that don't get to go every day in practice.
From a walk-on guy to this, to an invite to the chance at the NFL. I mean, is that a pinch yourself kind of thing? Is it
that's fine.
Inspiration to a lot of
that was weird. I just didn't hear the interview.
Do it over a 4 or 5 year stretch?
I wouldn't say I expected it by any means, but I always had a dream for it. I always had a dream to make plays at Clemson and play for the Tigers, and as well as play in the NFL. Always had that dream, and so it's been cool to just come out here and meet some of the coaches.
So my guess is they can't hear this interview on.
What's your fit in the NFL? How do you see yourself playing on Sundays?
Well, a guy like Adam Humphries, who was at Clemson for me, wore 13 before me, has had some success the last 4 years with the Bucks. I know he's coming up on a contract year, so hopefully he gets some money. But similar to that, just being an available guy, just being consistently open and reliable.
It feels like you were at Clemson, at least from the outside, for like 20 years. Did it feel that long?
Yeah, it felt like it from the inside as well. I had a bunch of different friend groups, and then they graduated, and I had a new group, so I was definitely there for a while.
Guys, now that you've got the 2 championships, where Dabo's got this program, what you guys have done, all the talent now in the NFL, I mean, everybody talks Alabama, but, I mean, you guys are Alabama, aren't you?
I I mean, they've won 2 out of the last 4, and we have 2. So I feel like we're gaining ground. I wouldn't say we're on their level yet. We're just little old Clemson, and we're trying to get to the top.
What does it mean to be a part of this group that's been able to do that, though?
It's been unbelievable. It's been so much fun to play for a guy like Coach Sweeney, like I said, and what he stands for, and how he runs everything, and how he does it the right way. And we don't feel like we have to take shortcuts or that sort of thing to be successful. And it's just been fun to be a part of it the last 4 years.
You played with Deshaun and now with this Trevor kid. I mean, what do you see out of Lawrence in terms of as you project him in the next few years?
I mean, he's special. He's so special. Playing with Deshaun, like you said, Deshaun was a baller from the sense that the pocket breaks down, he'd be able to get out there, find the open guy. He just kind of was a baller. And Trevor is too, but Trevor he sees it before he's coming. It's just special because he never had a freshman moment, and he really had just been special ever since he got on campus at Clemson.
How many Reese's peanut butter cups you need?
Yeah, that's Hunter Renfrow there for the former Clemson wide receiver, and yeah, he does need to get his weight on. I thought he'd be the guy eating like 50 Reese's peanut butter cups.
Once again, I'm glad that they had name tags. You know who he reminds me of a lot, and just from the way that he looks and everything, is Danny Woodhead. I remember unassuming for sure. I remember being on the streets of Bourbon Street back in 2013 for the Super Bowl. I was at the festivities and the parties and whatnot, and I had my best friend AP with me. He was from Wisconsin, and I basically went to AP. I'm like, see that guy right there? He's like, yeah. What about him? I'm like, that guy caught 5 touchdowns to the New England Patriots this past season. And he couldn't believe it. I mean, if you ever saw Danny Woodhead, how tall would you say he is? Maybe like 5'8"? Yeah, 5'9". And he's got like this skateboarder haircut, kind of like a bowl cut going. He's got the scruff and everything. Really unassuming, quality guy. I mean, salt of the earth type of dude. And I got those vibes from Hunter Renfrow for sure.
Do you think, without Tom Brady and what the New England Patriots have done to make, let's just be frank and honest here, the short, white wide receiver relevant in the NFL? Wes Welker, Edelman, Amendola. You mentioned a Danny Woodhead type. Without those guys.
My God, what this guy and this team is doing, and he's the leader.
I got you, yeah.
And Belichick, of what they're doing. Maybe instead of hating on them, do we appreciate what they're doing because it's going to be gone in a couple of years? I just wonder if there's a shift that way anyway. The big game scheduled for February.
Well, the other time I turned it down, has it been dropping out a bunch or just right there?
And one of the best soccer players in the world got popped big time for tax evasion. Cristiano Ronaldo will ultimately pay a $21.5 million fine, and in doing so will avoid jail time in Spain. Find us online streaming live 24/7 at ESPN690.AM.
Yeah, makes sense. I just want to figure this out. I'm like, I don't get. Like, if it just dropped out there, can you hear us now? You hear us fine? Maybe it just dropped. I mean, yeah, well, that's scary, by the way. I don't want that happening 14 more times during the show,
Ivan just completed his comprehensive training and was
can you go pick up? Well, first of all, you got to get Malik Jackson on the show. Can you pick up Skype? And can we try to do this again so we can see?
Ivan is hands-on with every step of the cleaning process for each individual rug that comes into his shop. Right now, have Zurez wash one rug, and we will wash.
Yeah, maybe at 4:15 we'll try it. I just don't know if on the thing can anybody hear. Like, we have Malik Jackson on right now. Can anybody hear?
Seacoast Christian Academy is a private school here
Yeah, that's not good.
and engaging educational
So,
focused on a college preparatory curriculum that is backed by strong Christian values.
if you can, I'll call. You text me when we get Malik Jackson on, and I'll call back. I'll hang up and call back.
Step Up Scholarship. Step Up is an
Yeah.
income-based scholarship program that most don't realize they qualify for. And Seacoast Christian Academy is accepting applications right now. For more information, call them or click seacoastchristianacademy.com. Is there a puddle in your living room when it rains?
We'll just keep it up the way we got it then.
Stains on your ceiling. Also, a roof problem. If you've got roof problems, you need to visit
I don't understand how we.
J&M Roofing is Master Elite certified.
Okay. I mean, the crazy thing is we did the exact same thing yesterday, and now it's different today. So.
5-star Google reviews. Ask about our multiple finance options. Visit jnmroofing.com. J-A-N-D.
All right, can you call Malik?
We're the ones with the umbrella. We got you covered. J&M Roofing.
You got that number, right?
Hi, this is Dale Murray from Murray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Superstore in Start.
I cannot verify the screen.
Well, and also the audio. No. That thing just dropped for a second, I think. What is it? The other one, I actually turned it down. The first time.
We're running warranty on every qualified vehicle.
Instead of,
There's no need to shop anywhere else. It's simple. If Murray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram doesn't have it, the manufacturer doesn't build it. And we'll trade anything from old Nike gear to a case of beer. Be American, buy American, buy Murray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Check out our new inventory during the start sales event and compare our prices online at ShazamAuto.com. You'll see why everybody finds the end zone at Murray Superstores.
So there's a delay. But today it's
301 half-mile north of Walmart. I'll be waiting for you. And remember, at any Murray
It's not reverb, it's
Superstore,
just like people with breaks in ears. But like we're gonna get Malik Jackson on now.
It only takes a minute.
You won't give him
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, we want the video. We want to be able to hear what's coming up next. So someone to call in or something to interview. So it's, but we would think so. We did say
So what better time than now? Let's begin.
Wait a minute.
One finger if you're a man.
Yeah.
All right, well, holler if you need.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, breaking the bread.
Now, 3 more fingers for everyone over 60. 2
The
over
enemy,
50,
man. The enemy of the
1 over 40. 1 more if you're not physically active.
All right, it says we're connected. It says we're all good.
Anyone
So
in your family has diabetes. Another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger. 2 if you're very overweight. And 3 if you're really
So
overweight.
make sure I can hear
You've
you.
just taken the world's first audio pre-diabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit
Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There's no excuse because pre-diabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
hey, let me know if you have Malik.
The biggest names in sports, all on one radio station.
Give me, are you excited about Nick Martin?
Are you gonna play the Corden thing coming back?
Sports Jacks, Brent Martineau, every afternoon.
Yep.
We were at
At the top and bottom of every hour. And make
We were at the
sure
weigh-in,
sports when it happens. Make us your own
saw the
button
guys'
for
media
sports.
day,
Listen live everywhere you go.
the pro
on
personnel that's around here,
ESPN690.com. The all-new
obviously the interviews that we did.
ESPN690.
Yeah, apparently, like,
From
they
the
kicked the media out of practice.
ESPN690 Anna Jar and Levine Studios. Anna Jar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. ESPN 690. Jacksonville's home for ESPN Radio. WOKV Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN690. Fox Media Group Station.
I'm Christine Lisi. At this hour, history could be made tonight for Mariano Rivera. This year's Baseball Hall of Fame class is announced.
Tyree Jackson.
Ever unanimous selection.
A large human being.
Holds the mark for top percentage at 99.32. NBA, the exiled Carmelo Anthony finally.
I actually like the kid we talked to from Washburn. I got a kick out of that. There's a kid here from Division II, Washburn.
If he clears waivers, which is expected, he can sign with whichever team he chooses, but a landing spot might be difficult for Anthony to find, explains ESPN's Zach Lowe.
You got to look at a team that's desperate to make the playoffs, desperate for offense, desperate for bodies.
Awesome. So play Corden coming back. Yes, right after the intro. Coming back.
NFL 2 days after the Chiefs' defense couldn't come up with a crucial stop against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game loss, the team fired defensive coordinator Bob Sutton.
Okay, can you record this segment at all so we can play it back later
Jets coach and current ESPN
with Malik?
NFL analyst Rex Ryan reports ESPN's Adam Schefter.
At Pizza Hut, you can get a large 2-topping pizza for $7.99 when you order online, delivery, or carryout. Don't miss out. Order today at pizzahut.com. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
You watch Action Sports Jacks on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jacks is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anna Jar and Levine Studios. Here's your host, Brent Martineau.
Now, Malik. And the Senior Bowl. Brent Martineau along with Austin Lane, Justin Couzart back home in Jacksonville. We're going to be joined by Malik Jackson in just a moment. And just to tee this up, we got to take you back to Sunday night. The James Corden show, the Late Late Show. Corden's a funny dude now.
Yeah.
And Malik Jackson played a role in the show. Justin, can you play that for us?
You had a fumble in a Super Bowl and you scored a touchdown.
I did.
And I've watched the video of you scoring that touchdown, and frankly, your celebration is embarrassing.
It is, yes.
You literally ran around like a headless chicken.
I didn't know what to do.
And that's what I'm talking about. We've got to be ready.
James Corden giving Malik Jackson a hard time. Nothing like giving big old Malik a hard time if you're James Corden, but he can get away with it because he's a funny guy. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane, and now we'd like to welcome in Malik Jackson on the phone line after his starring performance on the Late Late Show on Sunday night. Hey, Malik, what's up, man?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Good. All right, give us the background on this. How did this all come about? How were you one of the 4 players that got picked to do this following the AFC and NFC championship games? Big day in the NFL on Sunday, so James Corden wanted to make it an NFL kind of show. How did you get this role?
Well, first, it's good talking to you. Second, I was able to get the role by my publicist, Robert Wilson, just hit me up and said, hey, would you like to do this? And I was a little reluctant at first. You know, I wear a helmet, and it's still kind of, you know, it's easy for you to go out there and play in hundreds of thousands of people, but to do a show in front of a few people, it's hard. But I did it, and it was a great time. So thanks to my publicist, Robert Wilson.
Yeah, what was the experience like? Like, what was, obviously they're trying to have fun. You guys are playing along.
Yeah.
But how long did some of that take to come about? I don't believe there were any live elements, right? Or were there some live elements?
No, I don't think so. To be honest with you, it was fun. It took us, we got there like around 11:30. We left like around 5:30. So it was a decent day, you know, but it was cool. I mean, the tapings went pretty smoothly. The guys I was with were all good guys on the show, you know, so it was real fun. And everybody was real open to doing stuff and just being a little goofy. So it went by fairly fast. Took a little bit to learn a dance routine, you know, and I was still a little shy doing it. I'm not the best dancer. I'm more of a fat Joe lean back kind of guy. But, you know, it was fun to break out and, you know, and have a good time. So it was fun and easy.
Hey there, Malik. Austin Lane here, man. As a former defensive lineman, I got to know, what's harder, taking on a double team or trying to learn dance choreography?
Trying to learn the dance choreography. You know, if you know anything, we've had thousands of hours of work. And plus, as much as I'd rather take on a single block and get a pass rush, you know, double teams, it's easier, man. It's what I do. You know what I'm saying? So definitely, I would rather take double teams than dancing.
Malik Jackson with us here on ESPN 690 on Action Sports Jacks on the radio. We are at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, but we had to catch up with Malik. I texted him like Sunday night right after. I was like, that was awesome stuff. We have got to get you on. So I appreciate you coming on and talking about this a little bit more. All right, give us an idea. We see Corden in the carpool karaoke. That thing's become a big hit. One, would you have rather have done that? And which song would you have picked? And the second thing is, how is Corden? Is he as funny as he seems on TV?
Corden, he's really funny, man. He's a real easygoing guy. You know, you can tell he does this. But to talk to him, you know, we talked to him a little about soccer. I believe he did a movie about West Ham or Southampton, I believe, and one of the guys watched it, and it was just cool, you know, watching them relate and have something in common. But he's a real cool, easygoing guy. Would I rather sing a song? Definitely. What song? I don't know who I want to be that day. Do I want to be like a genuine guy, you know, going out there targeting the ladies, or do I want to go out there and be like a wholesome guy, maybe a Nick Cannon, you know, somebody that comes to the whole family vibe? You know, I don't know. It would have been hard. Maybe leaning towards singing something from Genuine, you know. Maybe that aspect. Maybe a little shirt open, Vaseline, baby oiled up. Go that route.
Some for the ladies.
You could fit
for the ladies, you know, for the ladies.
And by the way, for folks that don't know, and we hope you know, because we hope you watched him on CBS 47 and Fox 30 throughout the season, but Malik joined us each and every week before Thursday night football, and we would do a lot of different things. So this is, Malik, you're smart about this. You know, obviously the football window only lasts for so long, so you want to tap into doing some other things. You've done some broadcasting things with us and other folks over the last couple of years while you're in Jacksonville. Where do you think, I mean, Austin Lane, he played in the NFL. He's now a co-host with me on ESPN 690. He was in the NFL for 5 years. He's an MMA fighter. We're seeing a lot of guys that are post-NFL career, and they all do some interesting things. What do you think you will end up doing post NFL career down the road?
Staying away from my job, hopefully.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I got asked that earlier today, and I think just first sit down and take a break. That's what I really want to do. You know, for my whole life I've been wake up, be here at this time, you know, and it'd be nice just to kind of not have a little structure and probably sit down. And then after that, I think I want to be a high school coach, you know, share the knowledge and help these kids try to play the game the right way and have longevity. I think, you know, it's a responsibility to get back and maybe do radio, you know. I mean, I have a face for TV, but I think radio will be easier. Not easier. I got to, you know, for me, be easier for me being behind a helmet and being able to talk to people, I guess, be the same being behind a microphone, you know. So I think that would be a easy transition for me. So I don't know. You know, you've helped me out a lot, Brenton, over there. So, you know, shown me a lot of ways and techniques. So I don't know. I utilize them.
Yeah, we'll be giving you a call, buddy.
Malik, to take it from me, man, being behind the microphone and doing radio is a lot easier than being in front of the camera and doing television. Take it from me.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I love it.
Yeah, so, you know, we played the Corden clip and everything, and there's a moment where he's making fun of you when you scored that touchdown, and you didn't really know what to do with your celebration. Brent was laughing his butt off at when he was making fun of you. Me, personally, I was stone-faced because the fact of the matter is I did the exact same thing that you did when I scored my touchdown here in the Senior Bowl. So I'm wondering if, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed, if you score another touchdown, do you have something in mind already, or are you just going to kind of freestyle it again?
I mean, I think I'm trying to make that sack dance a little household, you know. So if I get on the big stage like that, man, I think I got to pull it out. You know, I got to do my little dance, you know, comb the hair and shoot, you know. So that's me now. You know, I think that situation at Super Bowl made me realize I need to do something with my life if I'm going to continue, you know, trying to get sacks and getting sacks. So, yeah, I'm doing and getting touchdowns.
We love the comb and the hair, man, and to remind everybody, that came from Greece, right? John Travolta, right?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the crazy thing, I've never seen the movie, so I was sitting at home just thinking about what's cool, and it took me like a month to be honest with you, and it just came up to me, and I was like, wow, slicked hair is cool. Who has slicked hair? You know, John Travolta from Greece has slicked hair. I don't know why I thought of him, but I said, wow, okay, cool. And then it kind of just went on and on and on, and you know, had a few trial runs, asked a few players, you know, what do you think about this? And I did it in front of them. They gave me some input. So, yeah, but originally it came from, yes, Greece.
That's awesome. Malik Jackson with us, Jacksonville Jaguars defensive lineman. A couple years with the Jags, Pro Bowl last year. Disappointing season this year for the entire team, and I think even Malik probably would say a disappointing from an individual standpoint in terms of the sack numbers. All right, man, what's the deal? Are you going to be with the Jags in 2019? What's your gut? Now, you know, you are so good at this part. You understand the business side. And when we asked you this question during the season, November, December, you understood it. You're making a good amount of money. You get it. They're going to have to shave some money off their salary cap. A lot of us, I'll be honest, have predicted that you might not be with the Jags in 2019. Have you been told anything? What's your gut about this coming season?
I haven't been told anything, and it's funny, I talked to my agent actually this morning. We really don't have any control right now. It's all in the Jags' court. You know, we have to see what they want to do with me. You know, we saw the decline in play that they took me off from playing. So I think if we're looking at that, you know, I think we'd be on the same page with thought processes. Huh?
No, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, go ahead, continue.
You know, so sorry, but I think it would make sense. But you know, I would still love to be in Jacksonville. You know, of course, I'd like to have what I had 2 years ago in the starting role and a chance to play and be on my own accord. But you know, we'll see. You know, like I said, the Jaguars have the ball in their court, and we'll see what happens from there.
Hey, were you surprised Marion Hobby was replaced?
Yes and no. I think I saw the way things are going throughout the season, and you know, it's disappointing. But you know, I think I personally saw it coming. But it sucks because Coach Marion Hobby is a great coach and a great guy, and he definitely knows how to teach. He knows the game. He knows how to teach you how to pass rush and how to play the game. You know, and I think that's what separates him from a lot of these other coaches. One, he's played the game, and two, he knows how to teach you. You know, make adjustments during the game to get you where you want to go, and which is the quarterback. So it sucks and it's disappointing. But if I learned anything this year, you know, it's a business. So
Hey, let me ask you one more question. How much more good football do you have in you? You really played a nice game the last game of the year. I think the last couple of games were really good. You came on a little bit more. This is, if it is the end of you in Jacksonville, it will be more because of a dollars versus cents kind of decision.
Yeah.
How much good football do you have at your age? What, 28 years old, aren't you?
20. I just turned 29 on January 11th.
Happy birthday.
To be honest, appreciate that. I'm so jealous you didn't remember. I should just hang up. But
sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm messing with you. But I honestly believe I have 4 good years to start and be where I'm at as a starter for 4-down player. And after that, I think I have another 3 years of being a pass rusher. So I say another good 7, and then the first 4 being just as vital and having just as good of a role, and then the last 3 just pass rushing.
Hey, good for you.
So
Listen, nothing more we'd love. And by the way, if you plan on 7 more years, that means you still got that love and passion to play the game and work every day and get after it. So that's awesome. We hope we see you back in 2019. And either way, we're going to talk to you a couple times over the next few months because we love having you on the show.
Man, I love being on you guys' show, man. It's always the first time to you, Big B. Thank you, guys.
All right, buddy. Malik Jackson. Nice job on James Corden, and good luck in this offseason. Enjoy some of the rest time. Malik Jackson on ESPN 690. Back with more from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Next.
Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 is brought to you by Best Bet Jacksonville and Orange Park.
At World Imports, we're car people. We love cars. If you're in the market for a luxury pre-owned automobile, we can help. We don't just sell you a car. We help you select your car, the car you've been dreaming about. No gimmicks here, no free TVs, and we won't put your car in a new age vending machine. Audi, BMW, Infiniti, Mercedes, or any other high-end pre-owned automobile, view our inventory at worldimportsusa.com. We'll find the car that makes the most sense for your style and budget. Visit us today at worldimportsusa.com.
Are you afraid of the IRS because you have unfiled or unpaid taxes? Most don't realize that having unfiled federal taxes is a misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year in jail for each unfiled return. With the IRS, it's never a question of if they'll come, but when. Don't live in fear. Call J. David Tax Law now for a no-cost consultation at 904-606-0009. That's 904-606-0009. Or find us on the web at jdavidtaxlaw.com. Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to. Nope. I'm sure you've got a perfectly good excuse. Kids, work. I get it. You're busy. So what better time than now? Let's begin. Raise 1 finger if you're a man. Ladies, none yet. Oh, count in your head if you're driving. Now, 3 more fingers for everyone over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40, 1 more if you're not physically active, another finger if anyone in your family has type 2 diabetes, another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger, 2 if you're very overweight, and 3 if you're really overweight. You've just taken the world's first audio prediabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit doihaveprediabetes.org or talk to your doctor. There's no excuse because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
This is Golick and Wingo.
NFL insider Adam Schefter is with us. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Tom Coughlin comes out with this statement. Where do you think this is headed?
They're going to be exploring other avenues, with them being one of the most, if not the most disappointing team in football, starting in a quarterback position. They'll start there, and they'll branch out, and I would expect that they'll obviously discuss the idea of moving on from Leonard Fournette, as they will with other disappointing players there this offseason.
Golick and Wingo, weekday mornings at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Now, back to Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Oh, it was good to have Malik Jackson on the show. I love Malik, man. He's a cool guy, fun guy, has fun. It was obviously a lot more fun than in 2017. He was a Pro Bowl season. He was such an impact player, and it resulted in wins. This was a trying year for him, and I appreciate him coming on, answering some of the questions. And he always talks so honestly and open about what it is. You know, he wasn't like, it wasn't the stand pat answer. He knows. He saw the writing on the wall. It'll be interesting to see what the Jags do with him this offseason. I think we all suspect he could be a cap casualty just because there's so many dollars built into that defense, and the way they started to use him or not use him certainly was some of the writing on the wall. But still a very talented player, and I thought it was interesting perspective for a guy to kind of put a year on it, you know, say, hey, I got 4 more years where I can do this, and then I might have to settle into a role for 3 more years after that. He's got it mapped out, doesn't he?
He's got it knocked out. He's definitely got the goal in mind, you know, and that's really important when you have that goal in mind. I think it's great, you know, obviously being a pass rusher, you can make a couple more years on the NFL. I mean, teams are always looking for pass rushers. If you can just kind of specialize, you know, on 3rd down, 2nd and longs, that's a huge difference, because at the end of the day, playing that run, man, is what really kind of takes a toll on your body. Rushing the passer, I don't want to say you get a break, because you really don't, but it definitely gives you a little more longevity if you can just rush the passer the whole time, not have to worry about playing the run so much.
Did you do that once you got into the NFL? Once you got drafted, said, hey, here's what I'd like to do? 5 years, 7 years?
Not at all. Joe Cohen, my defensive line coach, basically just instilled, you're going to be here in Jacksonville this year. You better play your you-know-what off, and just take it 1 year at a time. So I never really had a chance to evaluate my situation. Obviously, I was in a good spot, and then Mike Mularkey got fired, and then, you know, they brought in Gus Bradley. I was kind of a tweener, didn't really fit the 3-4 outside linebacker, like kind of like Andre Branch, like that Leo. Yeah. I was too small for a 3-4 defensive end wing, you know, 260. So I just didn't have a spot there in Jacksonville. So a lot of it's, honestly, it's luck, you know. I mean, if I would have had a scheme that fit me better, who knows? You know, unfortunately, it didn't work out my way, but hey, that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, it is, and that's what happens, and that's why. So, I mean, listen, Malik Jackson can say, hey, I'd love to do it for 7 more years, but who knows? I mean, there's no way he would have said at the beginning of this year that I might be out of here by the end of the year, and that might be the case in Jacksonville with that huge contract. I always thought it was interesting. Malik Jackson, again, this is one of the reasons I love him, because he never shied away. When he signed that $90 million deal, he was all about the dollars, man. He was like, that's $90 million. He's like, that's the contract I was playing for, coming off that Super Bowl win with the Denver Broncos. But he always had said, it's like, I would like to earn all of it. And it looks like he probably won't earn all of it in terms of getting that full $90 million. But he'll get paid somewhere else. I don't know if he'll get paid that much money. He'll probably have to prove it a little bit more to get even more as he goes along. But we'll follow Malik Jackson if it's not here in Jacksonville. But no official word yet. I think we'll get some of those moves and transactions over the next couple months as we head into the league year. All right, time to ballin' and fallin'. I thought Malik was ballin', by the way, when it came to the James Corden show. That was good stuff. Glad to have him talking about that. And he was dancing and balling the other night.
And it's always great to see a guy that doesn't take himself too seriously, especially, you know, in the NFL. You could tell he was having fun with it. He did a great job. So anytime you can kind of see a player's personality a little more, it's always fun to watch. Going to my balling, I'm going business for the businessman. Rashawn Gary. Brent, you know what I'm talking about here.
Rashawn Gary. Why do I know that name?
He's in the draft.
Yeah.
Okay. So defensive end.
And I don't know
Michigan.
what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
I was like, okay, that's why I've seen him.
So he's in the news today. Defensive end from Michigan. Said to be a first-round selection, if not second round. But what's making headlines with him right now is the fact that he's starting up his own sports agency too. Not only was he a star player in Michigan, but also 2-time All Big Ten academic All-American, I guess. So he's also a businessman as well. So the fact that he's about to probably make some first-round money and then make money outside of that as well for being an agent, and he's, I guess, bringing on some clients from different, you know, college teams. Shout out to him, man. All about the business.
Yeah, good stuff. Ballin' for sure. In terms, it's amazing if you could have that. I guess the smarts to do that, the willingness to do that, and it'll see if it will work out for him. You know, I mean, I think a lot of people think about that, but you're gonna be like, okay, do I want to do that? Do I want to go all in on that? I've got a lot to worry about right now.
Listen, I mean, especially being a rookie, that's going to be a lot on your plate. From what I understand, his mom's going to help him out too and everything. So he's not doing this by himself. I mean, he has an inner circle who's going to help him during the season. But you know, you saw with Teddy Bruschi back in the day. You know, Teddy Bruschi was his own agent, and I mean, depending on the contracts that you sign, man, you can save yourself some pretty serious coin by doing that. And, you know, you kind of see it with Floyd Mayweather, where he's a boxer and he's a promoter. I mean, I think anytime a young man out of college has these entrepreneurial dreams and everything of making the most money as possible, I'm going to support him, man. And like I always say, Brent, go get your money.
All right. My ballin', I'm going to go with Drew Lock. I really think here at the Senior Bowl through today, I thought he was balling. I don't know what he's doing out at practice. Marcel Robinson's out there, and he's going to take a look and have some thoughts on it. Will Greer, they're just finishing up the South practice, and Will Greer just said, I'm the best quarterback in this draft. So those guys all have confidence, and we'll find out who really is the best quarterback in this draft. I don't think everybody's going to agree that Will Greer is the best. Will Greer, by the way, was the one that didn't talk earlier today, so he just spoke after practice, so maybe we'll have some comments from him a little later or tomorrow here on the program, because there's obviously a lot of intrigue about Will Greer. But I'm going with the ball. And if you missed the top of the show or the early part of the show, I was really impressed by Drew Lock, how he handled himself, how he spoke about his career, how he spoke about what's to come. And listen, that's just a small element of it, but I really think he's off to a good start when it comes to balling here at Senior Bowl week.
Well, and allow me to give him a balling honorable mention from me as well. Did you ask him about his celebration that he used to do all the time with his thumb? I'm really curious to see where that stemmed from. If you know what I'm talking about, they played Texas in the bowl game, I think. They played Texas, I think it was in the championship game, something like that. But the Texas coach actually copied him, and he was doing it when Texas was kind of killing Mizzou a little bit. He's kind of got that swagger a little bit. I don't want to say he's got that Baker Mayfield swagger, but he's got a little bit of swagger. He's got the celebration. So, ball and honorable mention to that celebration that he has. I don't know what it is. It's something with his thumbs he's doing, but ball nonetheless.
I should do balling for the Kleenex company because I'm going through a ton of them right now. All right, how about falling?
Fallen. Well, just like the snot that has fallen from Ben Martineau's nose right now, fallen is going to be D. Ford, Gillingham, England. Not the D. Ford from the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm talking D. Ford from Gillingham, England. This poor lady didn't get her exact age, but they said she was middle-aged. Obviously shares the name of D. Ford from the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, it just so happens that this poor lady's Twitter handle is D_Ford. So when she was having tea and crumpets at lunchtime today, she was getting some unfavorably tweets from Kansas City Chiefs fans, such as, "I hope your wife leaves you.
Oh, boy.
It's a shame that you're so stupid." And my personal favorite, "You took away food from my family's mouth tonight because your 300-pound ass couldn't get on sides."
Whoa.
Can you imagine being this lady just sitting down for some tea at noon and seeing these tweets in her mentions right now?
Wait a minute. Somebody tweeted that and said, you took food off the table? Like, what, did the guy have money on the game?
Obviously, yeah. FanDuel's big, man. DraftKings big. Get with the program. But obviously, D. Ford is falling. Listen, I'm all about being passionate and whatnot, but calling out to you Chiefs fans, make sure you do your research of who you're actually tweeting at, not some poor lady in England. I mean, as if, the U.S.-English relations weren't, on the fritz enough. Now we got to worry about our fans, the football fans, going after their fans, in England. I mean, dude, she's probably a soccer fan. She's got no idea who the Kansas City Chiefs are. Leave that poor lady alone.
It is fascinating if you go, I want somebody to do this. Go over to, all the names. Once in a while, you'll see some of the names in the news that people are getting really scathed on Twitter, on social media. And you'll see a tweet from a guy be like, "Hey, I'm the wrong one. It's not me."
Well, I remember
this is an example of it.
Brandon Marshall, from the Jaguars.
Oh, yeah,
obviously. And then Brandon Marshall used to play for the Bears, and spent some time in the Dolphins as well as a wide receiver. And, he was kind of a controversial guy for a while. So poor Brandon Marshall with the Jacksonville Jaguars, playing outside linebacker, would get a lot of wrath of that, even though it was Brandon Marshall 54. I mean, you got to think the 54 should give you a clue that it's not Brandon Marshall, the wide receiver, but people don't do the research.
I tell you, between Brandon Marshall and Josh Baker, those are two names that I know too many of them. Right? Like Brandon Marshall, obviously the wide receiver you just mentioned. Brandon Marshall, the linebacker at Denver, used to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. Brandon Marshall, the Reigns high school running back, who holds the high school rushing record for Reigns now all time, just finished up a fantastic career with back-to-back state championships. I know a lot of Brandon Marshalls. Josh Baker's the same way. I played with a Josh Baker in college at baseball. Josh Baker owns Baker Sporting Goods, very successful, obviously, in Jacksonville. And Josh Baker used to be a huge supporter and worked at UNF for the UNF Ospreys, and now has moved on. But it's like in my phone, I have Josh Baker, and I have no idea which one I'm texting half the time or calling. And it's the same thing with a Brandon Marshall, more from a national celebrity kind of view. All right, fallen for me, it's Chiefs associated. All right, Bob Sutton, relieved of his defensive coordinator duties for the Chiefs. The Chiefs had a great pass rush, but they've got to fix some of that defense. If they do that and combine it with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and that offense, they could be, at least on paper, unstoppable in 2019. 19. But Bob Sutton relieved of his duties, even though they played good defense for a good chunk of that game.
According to the reports, Bob Sutton was a good game planner, but he wasn't so good at making the in-game adjustments, and that's what the players kind of came out and said. It was just the fact that he couldn't adapt, make the in-game adjustments that are so important, especially against teams like, obviously, the Patriots, in the AFC. So good luck to Bob Sutton. I played for him a little bit. I think he's a great coach. I'm sure he's going to catch on someplace, but you always hate to see that.
He's fallen, and it combines with D Ford. Did he line up offsides? Was that Bob Sutton's fault that he lined up offsides?
Which D Ford are we talking about? The D Ford in Gillum, England? Because she doesn't know what you're talking about right now, man.
QB prospect Tyree Jackson from Buffalo. Our conversation next on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update. I'm Aaron, and Saints fans will be heard. After the refs missed an obvious pass interference call that probably cost the Saints a trip to the Super Bowl, angry fans have reacted with online petitions, billboards in Atlanta, and actual lawsuits. Meanwhile, the Pats continue to prepare for the team that beat the Saints, and Mike Golick on ESPN 690 this morning thinks it's time for the Pats hate to just stop.
My God, what this guy and this team is doing, and he's the leader of this team, he and Belichick, of what they're doing, maybe instead of hating on them, do we appreciate what they're doing because it's going to be gone in a couple of years? I just wonder if there's a shift that way anywhere.
The big game scheduled for February 3rd at 6:30 can be seen on our sister station, CBS 47 Action News Jax. And one of the best soccer players in the world got popped big time for tax evasion. Cristiano Ronaldo will ultimately pay a $21.5 million fine, and in doing so will avoid jail time in Spain. Find us online streaming live 24/7 at ESPN690.com.
Introducing Salt Life Lager, the perfect beer for those who live the salt life. Salt Life Lager is also the perfect beer for those who live the outdoor life, the beach life, the fishing life, the festival life, the boat life, the yacht life, the tailgate life, the stay home and relax life, even the sit around and talk about life. In fact, Salt Life Lager is the perfect beer for just about any life, starting with yours. Salt Life Lager, a salty state of mind. Available now at ABC Liquors, Publix, and Winn-Dixie locations. Visit saltlifebeer.com for more information. Must be at least 21 to drink. Please drink responsibly.
At Harrell & Harrell, we are a family. It's not just the Harrells. Many of our employees are family, and most importantly, we treat our clients like family. When you've been injured, we'll make decisions with you like we would for our family. Not like you are a number, a file, but a person. So if you've been injured and need an attorney, let us fight for you as family. Harrell & Harrell. Call us, 251-1111. Don't settle for less than you deserve. Offices, Jacksonville.
Hey, it's Mike Golick from Golick and Wingo. If you want to win every sports debate at work, listen to us every day on your way to work on ESPN 690 or at your desk, ESPN690.com.
You watch Action Sports Jax on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jax is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anna Jar and Levine studios. Here's your host, Brent Martineau.
I'll tell you what, man. You know what time it is? Well, do you know what almost time it is right now?
It's 3:30 here, 4:30 back home.
Almost time for that happy hour horn to go off again.
Yeah, the happy hour. Tell us all about it, okay? Here's the deal. In Mobile, Alabama, we're actually looking at the happy hour horn out the window. What's the name of this hotel again? Riverview?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, the Riverview. It's basically attached to the convention center.
Yeah.
And tell us about it, because you had an experience yesterday. You almost did this for Fallen. Not Fallen, but the Fallen part.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't know if I should put it at Fallen or Fallen because it's cool, but my story, it kind of affected me a little bit where it'd be Fallen. But anyways, to kind of set the stage here, being an intern that I am, I was sent to go get some Jimmy John subs and everything. So I went outside and I was just, me being the social.
Bread, by the way.
They had bread, yeah. They ran out of bread for a little bit. Not sure how that happens, but whatever. Me being the social butterfly that I am, started to strike up a conversation with some of the bellhops that were outside, and all of a sudden this lady brings this giant stick outside from the hotel, and I'm just kind of in awe of this long stick. I mean, it had to be at least probably 15, 20 feet long, and she's coming right for me. So obviously I got to ask, like, what's going on here? And she was a sweet she was a sweet older lady, and she was basically like, hey, should we get out of the way? I'm gonna poke you. I'm like, all right, I'll get out of the way. And she's still coming like right next to me. So I'm like, what is this lady doing? Well, come to find out, that pole was used to signal the happy hour horn that I'm not sure if it's just something for the hotel, but I guarantee the entire city of Mobile, Alabama could hear this thing, and I'm standing right underneath it. And basically it just signifies that it's happy hour. And have you ever seen Inception, Brent?
No.
Okay, well, there's a scene in Inception, Hans Zimmer, a great composer when it comes to music. There's like this eerie horn that goes off Inception a couple times. It just makes you kind of feel uneasy and kind of, I guess, queasy, you could say. And that's exactly how I felt. I mean, I didn't know if we were under attack. I didn't know if there was a tornado coming through. Didn't know if, the Germans were coming to get us. I had no idea what was going on. So it was quite the ordeal.
Yeah, you were shook.
I was shook.
Because you came back and said, like, did you guys hear that bell? Horn?
Yeah.
No, we didn't hear it. But and then you were still talking about it after the show. You were still complaining to the bellhop out there about it.
Well, because it was, I wasn't expecting it, obviously. I wish the lady holding that pole would have let me know what was going on instead of just, being funny. Like, hey, move, sugar. Like, yeah, tell me that my eardrums are about to get blown out of my sockets instead of just, let me stand there and take the brunt of that horn. But thankfully, I'm okay. I can still hear. Ears are a little ringing, but it is what it is.
Listen, man, if you can be called sugar,
yeah,
your day was made.
That's a dang good point. And speaking of days being made, we're in the hotel this morning we're staying at. And what's the name of it again? The hotel that we're staying at? I can't.
Spring Hill Suites.
Spring Hill Suites. And Brent gets to chatting, with one of the front desk workers and just cracking the joke of, which one do you think of us went to the YMCA to work out this morning?
I forgot about this story.
Yeah,
How did I not bring this up? I should have led the show.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna let you tell the story because this is your story.
You're a better storyteller. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so Brent,
Plus
basically,
I want to hear it.
Yeah, it's gonna build your confidence even more. I'm surprised your head got through the door this morning with that ego. But anyways, so Brent's asking the lady, like, hey, one of us went to the YMCA this morning, got a great workout, and who do you think it was? And, obviously me, I'm standing tall. I just got done doing deadlifts. I still had some sweat on my brow from a great 1 hour and a half workout. And she goes to Brent. She's like, "Oh, it was you. You're built strong. You're thick. It was definitely you."
That's what she said. You're thick.
Meanwhile, a guy with 8% body fat, 6'6", standing behind Brent, is just standing there like an idiot, thinking, "Lady, I just put in an hour and a half at the YMCA. You can't give me any props." But then she proceeded to try to feel my muscles, and I almost had to meet to her for a second because I was not feeling comfortable anymore. But that's just kind of that Southern hospitality that you get here in Alabama. And hey. And anything to boost Brent's spirits, especially today with his nose running and whatnot, it made his day. My confidence was shot. I haven't been walking tall since, but it is what it is, Brent. I'm glad she made your day.
Yeah, you're right. That is better than being called sugar. She was fantastic. I love that lady, and I'm going to give her a big tip before we leave the hotel tomorrow. That was an outstanding deal. Like, she was dead serious, too. Like, that's the funny thing.
No, yeah, she didn't crack a smile.
She was serious. Like, she wasn't playing a joke. And she was almost apologetic to you as you were walking away because you were so hurt.
Feelings were hurt a little bit, especially after you put in an hour and a half at the YMCA.
I'm sleeping at 7:30 in the morning, and you're sitting there working out and lifting weights.
Feelings were hurt a little bit. I guess I should have did more arms and doing deadlift and lower body, but the ego was crushed a little bit. But you know what? It's good to stay humble sometimes.
It is true. By the way, Brian Copham says Dee Ford was brought to Auburn this fall because so many AU fans always tweeted her. So to your fall, they actually said they brought her to Auburn.
Okay.
Of course, where Dee Ford used to play.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. Did not know that part of the story. Speaking of fascinating, maybe not a more fascinating quarterback prospect than Buffalo's Tyree Jackson. Where does he fit? Did he come out too early? Is he so raw that he should have stayed for another year or transferred to a bigger school? Those are the conversations taking place. Bottom line is, this guy's 6'7", has a big arm, and in a day and age where we just saw Patrick Mahomes sling it all over the yard, everywhere he played in the NFL, it has to intrigue you a little bit. Tyree Jackson, one of the most fascinating stories here at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Austin and I caught up with a big fella earlier today.
Now let's welcome in Buffalo quarterback Tyree Jackson now. And who's the short guy in this group? Yeah, I've got some couple basketball players. Welcome to the Senior Bowl, and how much are you looking forward to this week and showing off what you've got?
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's a blessing to be here and a great opportunity. Once I got the call that I was invited, I was so excited. I had my bags packed and ready to go. It's going to be a great opportunity to prove myself in front of all the scouts and against the best competition. So I'm very excited.
Lean on this guy a little bit. He played it in 2010, scored a touchdown, and then got drafted by the Jags.
Tyree, the first thing I noticed with you, man, is the fact that you're always smiling. You're always having a blast here. I mean, make no mistake about it. I was in a situation too. It's a stressful environment, but are you still having fun with this whole thing? I mean, your personality is shining through. Is that what you're trying to get across here to the other teams?
Yeah, I think this is just naturally who I am, you know. And at the end of the day, I'm playing football. I'm going to meetings. I'm doing media. That's what you're going to be doing in the NFL. That's what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. So, you know, you got to enjoy those things. You can't take it for granted because when you're done playing, it's over, you know. So I'm very excited and I'm just very thankful.
What about your game translates to the NFL right away, or is there some work that needs to be done until you can play on Sundays? Obviously, you've got tremendous talent, you've got size, you've got arm strength, but it's more than that to play QB in the NFL.
Yeah, I think something that does translate, you know, I have the ability to make all the throws, and I've shown that in college. I can win from the pocket, and I don't really leave the pocket unless I have to, you know, and when I get outside of the pocket, that's when some special things can happen, but that's also when, you know, you need to throw the ball away and just take the punt and, you know, go out there and live another day. So I'm very excited to continue to get better and continue to show that I've polished some things up since the last game, and then also just to show throughout this process that I've cleaned up a lot of mechanical stuff.
When you're in high school, you're 5'9". You're 6'7" now. Were you taking all the GNC supplements back in the day? Did you fall into like a vat of waste or something where you're like a superhero? Like what actually happened in that whole process of going 5'9", 6'7"?
I probably wish I would have took some protein because I look like a string bean. So I was praying at night every night, I swear, and I was very thankful to grow. You know, no one in my family's really tall, and no one's near as tall as me. So it's just awesome, and hopefully my kid gets some of these genes and gets tall too.
Looking at Patrick Mahomes this year and his talent, because of the arm talent you have and stuff, do you think people will be wowed by what you can do out on these practice fields and how far you can throw the football? I mean, people get wrapped up in that. It becomes a trendy thing, and obviously it's an important thing.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone has watched the tape. They know I can make these long throws and stuff like that, but throughout this week, I want to just play in the offense, play in the 49ers offense. If everyone's bailing, chuck the ball down, take the 4-yard completion and move on. You know, it's not about making the wild plays all the time. It's about being consistent and moving the chains.
What's the craziest dunk you've ever had?
Well, I stopped playing basketball my sophomore year of high school, but I probably just windmill.
Dunk, all right.
And I had to ask, I mean, being a fan of tattoos myself, you have a couple. Are you getting a full sleeve? Are we going to have a full sleeve in the NFL or not? What are you thinking?
I don't know yet. You know, right now I'm worried about practice number 1, and I don't know if I have the money to do all that right now. So yeah. I'm just excited for this opportunity, and we'll see what happens.
Tyree Jackson, good luck, man.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good to catch up with one of the quarterback prospects here at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, Tyree Jackson, and I was looking up at both of you, obviously. How tall are you?
See, that's the thing. If he's actually 6'7", then I should be like 6'4", because that guy was even towering over me a little bit.
And what's your height?
So I'm supposedly 6'6", which I thought I was. So
yeah, I think you guys are pretty close.
I don't know, man. He kind of had me by a few inches, it seemed.
You think it was?
Yeah, but I don't know if he's just a quarterback and he had that aura around him, but whatever it was, man, he was a big dude, especially for a quarterback.
Yeah, like you feel 6'6". I mean, maybe he does measure. I didn't see what he weighed in at this morning and the measurables, but maybe it's a little higher than 6'7", closer to 6'8". He's a big, tall guy, no doubt about it. And I mean, the athletes and the specimens we're seeing at the quarterback position now, obviously Patrick Mahomes is unlike anyone it feels like we've seen.
And I said in the interview too, the kid didn't stop smiling the whole time. Yeah. Like you could really tell you could tell he was enjoying the process. He was kind of calm and cool under pressure. And let's not forget too, he's got a teammate here in Anthony Johnson playing wide receiver. He's one of the touted wide receivers here. So the fact that he's kind of got that, he's got the connection with him already. You might see both of them kind of do well at the Senior Bowl practice today.
You know, what's interesting too is I always say this, and I understand with the state of the NFL and that it doesn't happen. I get it. You just wish for a guy like Tyree Jackson. He's into this process. He's going to go to the NFL. Somebody's going to take a chance at him probably in the middle rounds, I believe, because he's so raw and he can't help them right away. But then you got to go sit, and you got to go learn, and you got to improve, and you got to get better. And then when you're ready, and they determine you're ready, and you determine you're ready, then it's go time, and go play on Sundays. I think very few guys can handle the scar tissue that you get if you play too early. We saw it with Mahomes. One of the reasons, again, I think he had such a successful year is he sat behind Alex Smith. He sat in that system with Andy Reid, and he learned. And then when it was time to go, he was put in a good situation with weapons. He was able to use his talent. The game had slowed a bit for him because it wasn't his first year, and I think you saw it pay huge dividends. He would not have had that kind of success in year one, in my opinion. I truly believe that. So maybe for a guy like Tyree Jackson and some of these quarterbacks that here in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, that will be the case. Let's hope it's the case, because I think you'll get better quarterback play out of this group
if they're able to sit and learn in the early going. More to come on ESPN 690 Action Sports Jax Radio on the road at the Senior Bowl.
Hey, it's Jacksonville's Morning News host Rich Jones. If you're here looking for news, weather, and traffic from News 104.5 WOKV, you need to change your radio preset. We're now only on 104.5 FM. If you're here for all things sports, you are in the right place. This is ESPN 690. Golick and Wingo, Dan Lebitard, Stephen A. Smith, and the home of Action Sports Jax on the radio. The best news on 104.5 FM. The best sports on 690 AM.
Attention men, are you suffering from ED or PE? Have Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra failed you? Men's Choice Medical Center can help today. Custom blended medications that are safe, effective, and affordable, even with diabetes, high blood pressure, and prostate issues. Men's Choice Medical Center. Regain your love life. Results guaranteed on your first visit or you pay nothing. Call 904-290-4211. That's 904-290-4211.
Hey, boss, check this out. 'Twas the week after Christmas, a scene to behold. At the do-it-yourself alarm company, what was about to unfold? So many alarms being returned in frustration by unhappy customers all across the nation. The power dome was ugly, the cords are on the floor, and no local monitoring was a problem for sure. But smart folks are out there and they shop around for the best security company that can be found. The name is Safe Touch. Security is their game. Safe Touch is the best. The others are just lame.
What are you on Safe Touch's payroll now?
What, you don't like it?
Just so I know you haven't completely lost it, tell me the Crooks R Us motto again.
Stay away from Safe Touch houses.
Yeah, and don't you forget it.
Sorry, boss.
Crooks know to stay away from Safe Touch houses. Hi, I'm Lester Jackson, president of Safe Touch Security Systems. No one beats our technology or our price.
Call Safe Touch today at 888-723-8682 or go to safetouch.com. State license number EF233.
All offers are with approved credit and not in conjunction. See dealer for complete details. Start something new sales event.
Looking for that perfect car, truck, or SUV to drive your new year in the right direction? We've got some great deals you can really warm up to at Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Bay Meadows. Drive a brand new Ram truck and save thousands. Gas or diesel, $1,500, $2,500, and $3,500. All priced at up to $12,000 off MSRP. $12,000. Get 0% for 60 months and save even more. Drive a new Jeep Renegade from just $16,988. Go home in a new Cherokee from just $19,988. Choose any car, truck, SUV, or minivan from our inventory and pay thousands below what you'd expect to pay. See them all at JAXCJD.com. Save up to $6,000 on Charger or Challenger and up to $9,000 off MSRP on a new Chrysler 300. Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. Doing our best for every customer every day. I-295 and Bay Meadows.
Hey, it's Trey Wingo from Golick and Wingo. If you want to win every sports debate at work, listen to us every day on your way to work on ESPN 690 or at your desk on ESPN690.com.
This is Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau
on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Hey, welcome back here on the program from Mobile, Alabama. The Senior Bowl underway. Full steam ahead here on this Tuesday. Practices for the North and South team. Action Sports Jax Marcel Robinson out at the practices gathering some video for the TV side of things. And he'll also come back and share his thoughts on some of the QBs, including Will Greer, how he looked today. Will Greer after the session saying, I'm the best quarterback in this draft. So the confidence is there for the former Gator QB and most recently the West Virginia quarterback who had a big-time year. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane here. Tyree Jackson said, I prayed a lot about getting tall. I think I might share that with my little guy.
Share with your little guy. I mean, let's be honest here. Is that what you prayed about this morning when that lady said that you were the one that went to the YMCA? Like, because I'm sitting here, you know, I can't let it go. I'm going to be honest. I really can't let it go. The ego took a big hit. Was it like a shallow Hal situation where maybe she saw like your inner, like, beauty or whatever, where she was just like, hey, maybe this guy's got the heart and soul?
Look, we're on like Facebook and Twitter right now and YouTube channel on Action Sports Jax and on ESPN 690 Facebook. So if somebody wants to sit, look, sit up straight. Who looks bigger? Who's more thick? Looks more built?
I mean, I don't want to tell you how to run the camera, but you're also closer to the camera than I am. But hey, that's neither
You
here
got a
nor
lot of
there.
excuses today.
Looking like a couple 1-2 Oakland Raiders scouts here, by the way, too. Yeah, we did not call each other, but we're both wearing black shirts with gray pants. Like I said, did not call each other. John Gruden, if you want to give us a little shout out and give us a job offer, I'm willing to listen.
Well, listen, here's the deal. We figured we could at least maybe get into some more interviews if they thought we were with the Raiders.
Exactly.
So that was well planned on our part.
Well, yeah, exactly. And obviously, I'm wearing a T-shirt showing the tattoos a little bit. I got my beard looking pretty intimidating. Brent comes with the sports knowledge. I mean, it's kind of a 1-2 combination. So we can kind of pivot that and swing that to more job offers. Let's do it.
Obviously, I look good and thick and strong in black. So we'll see tomorrow. Whatever I wear, I'll probably look just fat. Whatever that is.
Just shy away from the white and you'll be fine.
All right, let's bring in Action Sports Jack. Stuart Weber joins us every day on the program, or at least has so far since the inception of ESPN690 and Action Sports Jack's on the radio. But he's a big player in all this. He actually helped us get this feed set up coming out of here, and now the video matches the audio.
Looking real crispy.
Does it all, man. Weber does everything. And what's up back in Jacksonville, man? You got some headlines for us? What's happening in the sports world today?
Biggest headline, I've been working on interior decorating our new office. So I'm trying to hang some artwork in there.
You are leading that charge, too. How's it coming?
It's good. The schedule board is all lined up on the whiteboard. That looks good. I've been told by building staff that my current correction of the cold air has to be changed because it's cutting off airflow, and that's not good. So I need to pivot.
Hey, Stuart, Austin Lane here, art expert and art expert go-to guy. Are you guys thinking more pointillism, surrealism, maybe a Van Gogh in the office? What kind of artwork are we talking here?
I will certainly play on my Dutch ties and pull in some Van Gogh if you want to use the Dutch pronunciation. You got to roll some G's in there, my friend.
Sorry, man, I wasn't much of a Van Gogh guy myself. I was more of an Edvard Munch Scream kind of guy. But hey, to each their own.
Yeah,
to each their own.
The big pieces, of course, will be going up. We'll have a Dream 18 signed flag. We've got that as a centerpiece, and we have some nice credential montages. If you're in the game long enough, Austin, and you don't leave us to go, the big time, you can collect your credentials and make yourself a montage out of them, and you can join the ranks.
You forget that I've been in the Super Bowl parties the past 3 years. I have plenty of credentials, sir.
All right, well, keep the stack ready, and
I will,
and scrapbook it.
Maybe some pictures from the mansions at some of those parties. We'll find out. By the way, we are putting a dartboard, I think, in the office, right? We still go with that?
I think that's the plan. I believe that's the plan. Also, I'm thinking about going and buying a ping pong net because there is just a random ping pong table in the hallway here on the radio side of the building.
I like it. I like this decorating. You're doing a fantastic job. By the way, can you add some more tissues to the office? I may need them over the next couple of days upon our return.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
It's getting bad out here.
We have snot on tap here in Mobile, Alabama, right at the moment.
Well, see,
picture.
Weber doesn't know about this part, but you have a little guy, right? 3 years.
I do,
3.5 years old?
3.5 years old.
Like I used to say, when the kids would get like the runny nose and sick, and I had twins, so we had two at the same time, and they were around that 1.5, 2 years old. You seriously would feel like a giant, I would call a snot rag. Like you had just had it all over you.
Yeah.
You kind of get that feeling having an English bulldog, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably worse at times. But that's my situation today. I kind of feel like a giant snot rag.
Yeah, thankfully I haven't encountered the giant snot rag yet with my son. I've flown with him. I haven't really. No, he's as far as the allergies are concerned, he's been pretty golden. But I will say this though. Whenever he rides on an airplane and my wife is with him, he gets his stomach gets sick and he'll throw up. So he's thrown up 3 times now when it was just him and my wife traveling. I've traveled with a little man twice. No puking whatsoever. So
daddy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have the magic touch and everything like that. So haven't been puked on yet. Haven't been used as a snot rag. So overall, I'm probably par for the course as a father.
Yeah, Weber probably does have it the worst. He's got to deal with Jugs. So the dog, the English bulldog.
That'd be short for the Juggernaut for our listening audience.
Oh, little X-Men reference?
That is correct. He is an unstoppable force that runs through walls.
I love it. All right, hey, what's the deal back home? What do we got? The Ospreys lost last night. Not a good loss for the Ospreys at home. You got to win the home games. And they got Big River City Rumble coming up on Thursday. I think Gators are playing some hoops tonight, aren't they?
Yeah, Gators got a home game tonight. Knowles are playing again tonight, so both of them going to try and notch one here in the win column. You have the ladies River City Rumble coming up at 7 o'clock at UNF, so the JU women will head on over to UNF Arena for that matchup.
Yeah, let's talk more about that a little bit. And by the way, the one thing you just mentioned in terms of the Gators and Knowles playing, the Knowles are obviously riding a 3-game losing streak, so big game for them. And the Gators, how are they going to survive without Keith Stone? And I shouldn't say survive, but how are they going to perform? What is their team all about?
The good news is they get eased back into the schedule. You have Texas A&M tonight, who's not a very good team. Gators favored by 12 in that one, so that tells you a little bit about that. So Florida should have a chance to kind of see how they can play without Stone, although it's kind of what they did, the last month, other than that nice little stretch they had this past game. So that'll be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, the Gators are all about it. If you're a Gator fan watching the hoop team, and I just don't think people are overly excited about the Gators right now in hoops, but the one thing you can watch is those 3 young guys who've been put in the starting lineup, and they're going to be in the starting lineup, and I think they'll stay in the starting lineup. But watch them, because if you see some maturation out of them over the next couple months, that's going to give Mike White and this program a big boost going into next year, because he's got another good recruiting class, and the talent will start to fill up as he tries to fix this thing, at least on the offensive end, because they've struggled, it seems like, for the last couple of years offensively. But the Gators play tonight, the Knowles play tonight, River City Rumble women's style tonight. But you just mentioned that you're going to Orlando tomorrow. Looks like I think you and Dan Hicken are headed down there. And you got a couple of Jags to talk about tomorrow when you get to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, the mayor will be down there, the football team's mayor. I don't know if the other mayor will be there, but it's a Jags event, so we might. We'll go down for that one. We'll go talk to Calais Campbell and Jalen Ramsey as well. So it'll be good to catch up with those guys. They practice early, so it's an early departure and an early wake-up call for yours truly, which is never a great thing, because I almost slept right through my dentist appointment this morning. And it was a 10 a.m. appointment, so it was a really early one, So we'll wake up early. We'll head down to Orlando and bring that to you tomorrow on air. And, of course, I'll have some reports here with ESPN690 as well.
Yeah, I wonder what the scene will be like in Orlando around those two guys. Remember last year with the Jags coming off the AFC Championship game, they had, I think it was 5 or 6, I think it was 6 Pro Bowlers last year, if I'm not mistaken. But so there was an aura around the Jags, around that defense. They had just made all the headlines, all these big stats. I wonder what it will be like around Jalen Ramsey, considered still one of the best in the game, obviously. Calais, same deal. But just because this defensive team didn't perform, I'm interested to get that temperature around the Jags and what people are feeling about the Jags, and especially 2 of their biggest stars, Stuart.
Yeah, and I think you kind of said it right there. I mean, this is the Pro Bowl. This is a place where folks are being voted in. So these are the guys with the personality, the guys that people want to talk to and want to hear from. And so you certainly expect Jalen Ramsey to hold his own court when it comes to that, because he loves talking to anybody and everybody, and certainly there'll be some national cameras there, so he'll perk up for that, and we'll be able to chat with him and Calais.
All right, Weber, get it done on the TV side. Continued luck decorating the office. The one good thing is, while everybody else is away, and if you're decorating the office, we really, when we get back, can't say anything. We just have to say, all right, good job, Stuart, even if we don't like it.
You still will. Yeah, you'll still say something, but I'm not going to care.
You just have to go with the flow. As long as he doesn't touch my championship belt that I have in there and my big boy collectible, we're going to be gravy.
I'm staring right at the big boy right now. Fortunately, that's not part of the remodel. That's down on the TV side. So
I got you.
We'll be all right.
Well, we got to remodel.
We do, yeah.
Studio and office looking good. All right, Weber, thanks, man. Have fun tonight. We'll see you on TV tonight as well. And, of course, from Orlando, you'll give us a report tomorrow from the Pro Bowl.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, Stuart Weber getting it done. Really the glue behind the Action Sports Jacks department. He does everything.
Big art guy, too, apparently. Correcting me on my pronunciation.
Well, look, I don't know if that means big art guy or if he's just 1400 SAT guy that's going to correct you.
It's a good point.
It's one or the other.
Yeah.
But we appreciate it.
We do.
He's our checks and balances.
We need to get him on Jeopardy or something like that. I feel like he would dominate.
He'd probably do okay.
Yeah.
No Jeopardy here. Coming up next from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. More talk about the prospects and the quarterbacks. And later on, a conversation with QB Ryan Finley on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and Saints fans will be heard. After the refs missed an obvious pass interference call that probably cost the Saints a trip to the Super Bowl, angry fans have reacted with online petitions, billboards in Atlanta, and actual lawsuits. Meanwhile, the Pats continue to prepare for the team that beat the Saints, and Mike Golick on ESPN 690 this morning thinks it's time for the Pats hate to just stop.
My God, what this guy and this team is doing, and he's the leader of this team, he and Belichick, of what they're doing, maybe instead of hating on them, do we appreciate what they're doing because it's going to be gone in a couple of years? I just wonder if there's a shift that way anywhere.
The big game scheduled for February 3rd at 6:30 can be seen on our sister station, CBS 47 Action News Jax. And one of the best soccer players in the world got popped big time for tax evasion. Cristiano Ronaldo will ultimately pay a $21.5 million fine, and in doing so will avoid jail time in Spain. Find us online streaming live 24/7 at ESPN690.com.
Parents, there's a better option for your child's development and education. Seacoast Christian Academy is a private school here in Jacksonville that offers challenging and engaging educational opportunities. Focused on a college preparatory curriculum that is backed by strong Christian values, they take on children as young as a year old through 12th grade. Right now, Seacoast Christian Academy is enrolling students who have the Step Up Scholarship. Step Up is an income-based scholarship program that most don't realize they qualify for. And Seacoast Christian Academy is accepting applications right now. For more information, call them or click seacoastchristianacademy.com.
There are lots of reasons to choose Farrah and Farrah.
The law offices of Farrah and Farrah, they treated me like I was somebody.
They have the gift of making you feel welcome, and they care about you. You're not just a number or a piece of paper to them. They care about your whole family there.
I've been treated exceptionally well. If I didn't know that they had a large business, I would think I was their only client.
Results in individual cases are based on the unique facts of each case.
Mom, I've really enjoyed our time together, but I need my own space. I need more room to stretch, to grow. I need to see the world. I mean, I appreciate how nice it is here, but I'm thinking somewhere new, modern, spacious, with a nice view and with great service. A place where all the cool kids go. I'm thinking UF Health North. Yeah, UF Health North.
Learn more at north.ufhealthjax.org/babies.
At World Imports, we're car people. We love cars. If you're in the market for a luxury pre-owned automobile, we can help. We don't just sell you a car. We help you select your car, the car you've been dreaming about. No gimmicks here, no free TVs, and we won't put your car in a new age vending machine. Audi, BMW, Infiniti, Mercedes, or any other high-end pre-owned automobile, view our inventory at worldimportsusa.com. We'll find the car that makes the most sense for your style and budget. Visit us today at worldimportsusa.com.
Are you afraid of the IRS because you have unfiled or unpaid taxes? Most don't realize that having unfiled federal taxes is a misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year in jail for each unfiled return. With the IRS, it's never a question of if they'll come, but when. Don't live in fear. Call J. David Tax Law now for a no-cost consultation at 904-606-0009. That's 904-606-0009. Or find us on the web at jdavidtaxlaw.com. Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN690 Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. ESPN 690. Jacksonville's home for ESPN Radio. WOKV Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN 690, a Cox Media Group station.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Here's what's happening. The Chiefs fired defensive coordinator Bob Sutton 2 days after his defense was unable to get a pivotal stop in the AFC Championship game loss to the Patriots. No specific reason by head coach Andy Reid for the firing, beyond saying change can be a good thing for both parties, and he believed that's the case for the Chiefs and Sutton. NBA, the Carmelo Anthony trade from Houston to Chicago is official. Bulls will eventually trade or waive Anthony. There will be some teams interested in the 34-year-old forward. However, they will have to deal with a pair of challenges if they bring him in, explains ESPN's Doris Burke.
Obviously provides you experience. The reason the Lakers, I think, have some tepid interest is because they desperately need some more shooting. Despite all the things that one of the great scorers in the history of the game provides you offensively, there are some liabilities defensively. And then number two, what's his comfortability with being just that shooter?
Our Dorisburg on Golick and Wingo. The 2019 class of the Baseball Hall of Fame will be announced tonight. Mariano Rivera, the game's greatest closer and Yankees legend, has a chance to make history as the first ever unanimous selection.
Brought to you by Discover. Get your free credit scorecard today. Even if you're not a Discover customer, it includes your FICO credit score, and checking your scorecard won't hurt your credit. Learn more at discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply.
You watch Action Sports Jax on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jax is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios, here's your host, Brent Martineau.
Hey, one more hour to go from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama here on a Tuesday. It's been a fantastic day here at the Senior Bowl. A lot of access to the players and especially the quarterbacks that are coming out in this class. And how much of an eye do the Jags have on this quarterback class, whether it's in the first round or maybe the second, third, fourth round, depending on what they do in free agency. We'll say one offensive coach told us earlier today when I asked him about the depth of this class and just the overall talent of this class, it was kind of a lukewarm response in terms of the star nature of the QB class in one offensive coach's opinion in the NFL. Brent Martin along with Austin Lane, Action Sports Jax on the radio this week on the road on ESPN 690 live from Mobile, Alabama and the Senior Bowl. Reset this thing a little bit, Austin. We spent the morning interviewing a bunch of players. We already caught up with Tyree Jackson. You heard from him. Malik Jackson came on the show, not here at the Senior Bowl, but to talk about his appearance on James Corden and also his future with the Jaguars. And we also will hear from a couple more players, including Ryan Finley, in just a moment. Drew Lock also chimed in. Marcel Robinson's out at the Senior Bowl practices, so he'll check in hopefully before the end of the show as he hustles back and what he was able to see through the viewfinder and the camera for CBS 47 and Fox 30. But your overall thoughts on this day, how much it's changed from when you were here as a player in the Senior Bowl?
You know what? I didn't really have nerves when I woke up this morning. Obviously, being a late addition to the Senior Bowl, definitely had nerves. Didn't have the nerves here this morning, like I said, but then all of a sudden I had to get in front of the camera a little bit, and you guys kind of called an audible, and I had to do some TV work as well. So that made me a little nervous. I try to adjust as best as possible, but from what I'm gaining with these players and everything is that they're having fun, and that's the most important part of this whole process. Obviously, you have to perform well on the field. You have to meet with these coaches, these scouts, and everything like that. But sometimes you just got to kind of stop what you're doing and just be thankful that you're actually here. Not everyone gets this opportunity, so be thankful for where you're at and enjoy the experience. Sometimes you put so much into trying to perform for the coaches and everything that you kind of lose track of the moment, So it's great seeing these guys actually have fun a little bit in these high-pressure environments.
There's a couple of things about this whole process that I talk about a lot, and I usually talk about it in hindsight, once the season's almost over in the NFL or toward the end of it. And it is, you just don't get a break as a college prospect, especially a big prospect. Think about it. You're playing through the month of November, which really you've been now training almost the entire year for that football season, your senior year, junior year, whatever it might be. You do that, you take a couple of days off around Christmas time and stuff, but you play in a bowl game most likely. If you're a big star, you're probably playing for a team that played in a bowl game. Then you take what? Any time off before you're training for this kind of moment 3 weeks later at the Senior Bowl. Then you start training for your pro day and the combine, and then you end up at the combine. Then a couple weeks after that, you're at your pro day. And then you go right into all the wait, anticipation, anxious moments of the NFL draft a few weeks after that. Then a week later, you have rookie minicamp. Then you have OTAs. Then you have a couple weeks off. And then you have rookie orientation. And then you have training camp. And you play a 16-game schedule. It is a long, grinding year for a young player.
There is no off season. There's just out of season. And then out of season, these guys are playing their bowl games. A few weeks later, getting ready for the combine, getting ready for bowl game, like the Senior Bowl, the All-Star games, things of that nature. You hit it right on the head. A term that gets thrown around a lot in the NFL is the rookie wall. And I'm here to tell you it's actually a real thing. Your body needs the rest. Your body needs time to adapt, and unfortunately, as a rookie, there is no time to adapt. Obviously, if you have a luxury of maybe sitting behind somebody or being a backup right away, you do have time to adjust a little bit. Granted, you're still practicing every single day, but you're not playing as much. But being that rookie, it's definitely hard to kind of get on your feet and start running. So that they always say, after the first year, you make your biggest strides in the second year, because in that second year, you actually have an off season a little bit. You have time and a vacation. You kind of learn the ropes a little bit. So it's always good to keep an eye on these young guys, and everything, especially as a head coach, to where they're at mentally, physically, because it is a draining, taxing season because it doesn't stop after college.
Well, we just said all the physical stuff, and then you kind of brought up a little bit of the mental stuff. There's a mental part of this, learning the playbook, going through this rigorous period where you're not sure where you're going to get drafted, especially one of these quarterbacks. There's talk you might get drafted number 20 overall. Then there's talk you might not get drafted till the 3rd round. You have no idea, and human nature is to pay attention to all that noise.
Well, it's having the ability to shift, too, because like I mentioned, I mean, after you're done playing a bowl game, you're kind of done with football for a couple weeks, and you got to focus on running a good 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
You
a little less fun.
Yeah, it's a little less fun. So you go from learning technique and things that can help you in the game in the NFL, and you go to learning about how you can take, maybe a fraction of a tenth a second off your shuttle, or how you can broad jump maybe a couple more inches. It's things like that, and they're so mundane because you go over them every single day, but they're things that need to be done because there is a high stake when it comes to being able to broad jump, having that good vertical. I mean, teams love all that stuff. So, it's as far from a physical standpoint, yeah, you do take a little, you take a little break from learning the combine prep and everything. But as far as mental, I mean, you go from having a college football season to combine training to, going back to the All-Star game. It's just, it never stops. And then obviously getting drafted and going to a new team with a new system that they introduce to you. It's just, it never stops, man. It's pretty stressful.
Yeah, and if you're a first, second, third round guy, they expect you to really contribute right away. We caught up with NC State quarterback Ryan Finley today, and Finley's the guy that just played in Jacksonville at the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl a few weeks back, lost to Texas A&M. In fact, they got blown out. But here's a little conversation from earlier today with QB prospect Ryan Finley out of NC State.
When you watch those championship games Sunday or the NFL at all, is it becoming more surreal that, in a few months, you're going to be in a locker room, a camp, and all that?
Yeah, I guess so. It's getting closer and closer, but I'm excited for it.
You mentioned the longevity of your college career.
Yeah.
How much does that help you from a maturation standpoint and the ability to kind of get into a locker room with a lot of different personalities and older men?
I think it helps me a lot. I think it's a good point that you just brought up. I'm 24 years old. I have a master's degree. Been in college for a long time, so excited to move on. Excited to take the next step. And yeah, I am a little bit older than your average kind of guy coming out in the class. So I think that'll definitely help me.
How do you look at this process? I mean, this is kind of just the beginning of it. You get pro days and you'll have combine and then it's a long way until Nashville in late April. So how do you kind of pace yourself and not put too much emphasis on one practice today or a quarter of action on this weekend?
I think it's just a 3-month job interview. If you look at it like that, you'll be in good shape. Everything you do is important, but nothing's make or break. So just kind of be consistent, be the same guy. Everywhere you go, everything you do.
Do you kind of handicap the field when you're looking at the 32 teams in the NFL of who needs a quarterback, who might need a young quarterback? Have you done that? Do you bother yourself with that?
I try not to. I think it's hard not to. Obviously, there's some teams that we kind of know aren't taking the quarterback, and that's just kind of logical. But I try not to do that. I try to, everyone I come in contact with, you never know where they're going to end up, so you never really know what can come of a certain connection. So just kind of, try to treat them all the same.
Let me ask you one bowl game experience question. We're from Jacksonville, so how did you enjoy the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl and that whole experience?
Yeah, had a lot of fun at the Gator Bowl. Staying at Amelia Island, that was a fun experience for our team. Obviously, not the way we wanted to finish it as far as how the game went, but it was a fun experience.
That's Ryan Finley earlier today, the NC State quarterback, one of the quarterback prospects here at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Yeah, I didn't enjoy the outcome of that game at the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl in Jacksonville earlier this year. Really, it was on New Year's Eve, so it was really late last year. But they got blown out by Texas A&M. Finley really didn't have a great game. Finley's interesting to me because I know the Jags have looked at him for a couple of years. They scouted him last year. He also is a guy who's been around the sport for a long time. 3 years at Boise, 3 years at NC State. That's a long college career. So a 24-year-old guy, he mentioned, I love that. All these young guys that come in, again, I talk about it a bunch. They're not ready for the life of the NFL, but playing in the NFL. I feel like a guy like this at least has the maturity probably to handle what he's about to endure.
Without a doubt, you're talking all the time that he spent in college. I mean, a lot of the result was from injuries. I think he had a broken ankle. He had to get shoulder surgery, which is maybe a little bit of a red flag, but it's not that big a deal, especially nowadays. They can do wonders for shoulders and whatnot. But the thing I keep reading about him and what I've been talking to a few scouts and whatnot, it's the fact that he's got the mindset for the game. As you know, he set the highest completion percentage ever at NC State, and that's over Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson. So the guy's got.
Those guys any good?
I think they're okay. I've heard of him before. Played against him a couple times. But what really sets him apart is the fact that yes, he has the highest completion percentage. But you ask him about that record, and he just goes on to tell you about those shots that he missed. Like the bad throws that he had, and that's the most impressive thing is that he's his biggest critic. He's his hardest. I mean, he's the hardest guy on himself. So I think having that kind of mindset, having the maturity at the quarterback position, it's not a guy that you really got to groom when he comes out of college. I mean, I think he's got the mindset already to try to lead a team.
Yeah, and conversations with him today, and also what I had heard about him even during Tax Slayer Gator Bowl week, he's a pretty cerebral, quiet kind of guy, and you could kind of sense that from the interview. But I'll take my chances now. NC State, Rivers, Russell Wilson. That's a nice little pedigree.
And also a fun fact about him, used to have Olympic aspirations of playing ping pong.
Ping pong.
Supposedly pretty good. I mean, I'm not sure if he's Forrest Gump good.
Table back in the locker room.
Not sure if he's Forrest Gump good, but Olympic aspirations, so I'm curious.
You any good at ping pong?
I'm decent.
That means I can beat you.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, I got you. I love it. Look like I've been in the gym more than you. I can beat you in ping pong. I'm having a heck of a day. Heck of a day here at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. When we come back, Stay in Your Lane with Austin Lane takes a little bit of a turn. And Marcel Robinson just walked in from the practices at Ladd's Peoples Stadium. We'll check in with how the QBs looked and everyone else right after this on ESPN 690.
Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 is brought to you by Best Bet Jacksonville and Orange Park.
Hey, it's Bill with Bill Fenwick Plumbing. If you've ever had a leak under your concrete slab, then you know how much it can increase your water bill or even your electric or gas bill if it's on the hot side of your plumbing system. Slab leaks can be costly, but luckily they are no match for our Golden Plunger service. If you suspect that you have a broken water pipe under the slab, have our team of professionals come out, locate the leak, and help you get your plumbing back on track. If you'd like to schedule a service call or would like some tips to determine whether or not you have a leak, visit BillFenwickPlumbing.com.
Dave Benyon with Zero Res. The holidays were fantastic. With the 4 married kids and the grandkids coming over, we had a constant flow of friends, family, food, and fun. Now that my wife is taking down her 4 different Christmas trees, I see the house needs a lot of work. The carpets, area rugs, sectional sofa, kitchen tile, granite countertops, everything needs a Zero Res clean. Right now, Zero Res will clean 3 rooms of carpet for $129, and you get the 4th room free. That's right, the 4th room is on me. Zero Res spelled forward backwards, it's the right way to clean.
It's Golick and Wingo.
Hall of Famer Tony Dungy. Rooney Rule in place. A lot of people say it's not working. What's going on with this, and what could be the remedy for this?
Ron Rivera, minority defensive coach, has been to a Super Bowl. Mike Tomlin, minority defensive coach, has won a Super Bowl. Anthony Lynn, minority running back coach. So that just kind of echoes my point. It doesn't have to be quarterback coach.
Golick and Wingo. Weekday mornings at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Now, back to Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau
on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
We are about to get some practice reports from Ladd Peoples Stadium. It's Ladd Peoples, right? Yeah,
sounds right.
They used to do the practices at Fairhope and Ladd Peoples. They figured this thing out. They've streamlined it a little bit better. And it's interesting. I haven't been in a few years. It's interesting to watch this thing evolve here at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. And I think this is like the biggest crowd from a media contingent I've ever seen at the Senior Bowl. And I might be wrong because you played in the Tim Tebow year, so there's probably a ton there. But I feel like all the teams are here. You know how all the teams have like Jaguars.com and they have the broadcast teams?
Yeah.
I think that's what's changed over the last 8-9 years is that all those team broadcasts are now here, whether it's the Niners or Raiders or Denver Broncos, anybody, they're all here in Mobile.
See, I'm the wrong person to ask with that just because, like you said, I was here with Tim Tebow, so there was groupies everywhere trying to get on board with him and everything. So as far as people that are here, I mean, it was chaos that year. This year it seems a little more reserved as a point for as a point for fans and whatnot. As far as media though, I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot of people actually that interviewed me back in the day too. Kind of catching up a little bit. I met like 3 or 4 people today.
Yeah.
So
a lot of hugs for you.
A lot of hugs. Well, I'm a hugger, man.
You're a hugger.
Yeah, I really am, man.
It's weird, you're a lover, not a fighter, but you're actually a fighter.
Except if I'm in the cage, I'm a fighter. If I'm outside the cage, I'm a lover for sure. Exactly.
Someday I'm going to ask you about that because I don't know how you can get that mad at someone to beat the crap out of them.
Well,
you're a nice guy.
Well, it's kind of like that Mike Tyson thing that we listened to on the way over here.
Yeah, but I can see him.
Well, no, for sure, and I'm definitely not psychotic like Mike Tyson is, but I mean, don't get it twisted, Brent. I have that switch, but it's usually when the cage door closes when that switch turns on, and I think being able to turn that switch on and off is really important.
Yeah, that's a good thought right there. The switch, because we just talked to Malik Jackson on the show today. I always thought he was awesome at that. Malik Jackson is a great switch guy. Like he gets inside those lines, and he's like, there's a little crazy. And you don't sense that much at all on the outside, in the locker room, off the field, outside the stadium. In that conversation we had with him today, but on the field he's got it, and that's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. I don't know how guys do that, to get that intense like you're doing, to be able to get that intense once the cage door closes or the whistle blows on a field, yet not really show any sign of that kind of that violent anger type that you need for those kind of sports. Outside of it,
to me, it would be like like in Ryu in Street Fighter when he charges up and everything. I mean, you can only sustain it for so long. So if I was to keep that switch on too long, I mean, it's exhausting, man. It takes a lot out of you physically and mentally. So I think having that ability to turn it on, turn it off when you need it. In the long run, it's going to help you out just for your body and just your whole mindset.
Yeah, it's easy for me. I'm just a jerk all the time. I mean, it doesn't matter. In the ring, outside the ring.
The switch is always on for Brent.
The switch is always on.
Yeah.
Not this guy right here, nicest guy in the world. Action Sports Jax Marcel Robinson, back from the stadium. Give us the report, man. Who the Jags taking? Did you see any Jags jerseys out there? Shirts, caps? Who are they looking at? You got the stopwatch. You got the binoculars. What's going on?
I am going to have to disappoint everyone and say there are no Jaguars jerseys at the Senior Bowl this afternoon. I did see Tom Coughlin there, which is, I guess it's a good sign that he's there, but it's a bad sign that we're all here. But from a quarterback standpoint, it's kind of tough because it's practice. They're basically they're wearing pads, but it's basically gym shorts. There's no free blitzes, no weak blitzes coming at them. But for the most part, they all look pretty sharp. Tyree Jackson, the Buffalo guy, he was the first quarterback I saw when I went out there. Him and Jarrett Stidham. He looks probably the most, I guess, prepared, you can kind of say. The leadership was definitely there. It showed a little bit. He's kind of talking to some of the players on good routes and bad routes, and I really like how he just kind of stands in the pocket. That's one thing that I was kind of worried about with him being so tall. It'd be a little different in the league, obviously, because everyone's taller and bigger, but he does have a very nice knack of being able to just kind of stand
got a presence.
tall. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Like, he's kind of got a little bit of swagger to him, too. One thing I did not like that kind of disappointed me was Will Grier. Everyone's kind of been really high on him, but he missed a lot of throws today. I don't know if it's the weather, I don't know if it's cold, but he missed a lot of throws in 7-on-7s and the individuals, which they say 7-on-7, the ball should never touch the ground. So not all his fault, but I expect a little more.
Well, that's something we kind of talked about with Will Grier. Is what you want to watch from him is the fact that in West Virginia with that system, it was a lot of short passes. So we haven't really seen a lot of deep bombs and even intermediate passes from him. Would you say predominantly like he had trouble today with the long ball and everything, or?
I want to say because they were going the opposite end of the corner, they had us kind of stacked in, but the majority of the throws that I saw that he missed were kind of intermediate. He was rolling to his left, kind of swinging out, and there was just a couple. One was kind of behind the receiver, and a couple were kind of low. But the majority of the passes that were off target were short to intermediate.
Keep in mind, Greer's an intriguing guy. I think he's married. He's got a kid. So what does that say? Well, it's not automatic, but from the outside perspective, it says, oh, he's a mature guy. He's obviously grown from the suspension at Florida. He can sling it all over, get the ball out quick.
Yep.
But then there are some, he's slightly under 6'3". There are some red flags there. Is it a system offense? But to your point today, I'll give him a bit of a pass. He didn't play the bowl game. So there's probably a little bit of a rust having the helmet on, being out there. Not saying he hasn't thrown the football, but you get my point. A little bit of rust because he really hadn't been in that element for a while.
Yeah, we actually talked to him right after practice. He kind of spoke to that. Apparently, the reason he missed the bowl game is not because of just not wanting to play. Apparently, he was suffering from a really bad ankle injury. Said he practiced leading up to the game, and he was expecting to play, and then kind of near the end, they decided to give the young guy a little bit more reps, and he kind of sat out. He said he's still not 100%. He's getting there, but he thinks he's well enough to kind of come out here and make some noise.
All right, so you saw Coughlin. Earlier today, I saw Chris Polian, obviously involved in the Jaguar scouting. I haven't seen Dave Caldwell yet, but I wasn't out at the practice. I'm sure he was out there, too. We've seen some of the Jag scouts that we know. So the Jags are here. You know any coaches, or you didn't see any coaches?
I did not see any down below, but our good friends at Jaguars.com, they did let us know that, or let me know that Marone was kind of up in the press box.
Oh, so he was here?
Yes.
Okay, I wondered about that.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if Doug Marone would be here. So
kind of mad I didn't get an invite. It was kind of chilly.
Fair enough. Up in the press box. Was that the setting, by the way? Was it chilly enough? Was the wind blowing a bit where guys wanted to? Because usually at Lad Peebles, to watch a practice, you'll see the coaches like in the stands, in the bleachers, in the seats. But somewhere away from that and up in the press box?
It was kind of a little bit of everything for the most part. Some of the coaches from other teams, I noticed they were in the stands. Some coaches were actually on the field, kind of on the sidelines, and others obviously wouldn't be able to see, but were telling us that they were in the press box. So they're kind of mixing around.
All right, it's time for a little stay in your lane. Swerving all over the place. My Uber rating on the way over went down to like a 2.5, which I think I'm officially off Uber. But stay in your lane is a little different today. It takes a little turn.
Yeah.
And it begins with Austin Lane catching up with Andy Isabella.
Cruise Control, Andy Isabella, the underdog from the underground, UMass. We have some audio here of me interviewing him today. I was super impressed with this guy. Not sure how he did yet, but I'm expecting some pretty big things from the game from this guy right here.
All right, I think Kuz has it back there, and this is a guy that you've targeted all week, at least the last couple of days. And we'll see how he does out at the practices and find out what he sounds like right now with Austin Lane. Stay in your lane, cruise controlling with Andy Isabella.
Andy Isabella, UMass, small school guy, Senior Bowl. What are you feeling right now?
I'm excited. I'm pumped up. I mean, I can't believe I'm here, and I'm ready to get out there.
You're a Blitnikoff finalist. I think you got robbed, in my opinion. Do you think there's any kind of controversy, the fact that you're kind of like Fred Blitnikoff? You're a smaller guy, speedy, shifty. Was there some kind of controversy behind that where they want to give it to you because you kind of resemble him a little bit?
I'm not sure. I got to meet Fred, and we actually ate dinner with him one night. He's a great guy and stuff. And yeah, his wife was telling me that I'm just like him, basically, like just hard worker and dedicated to being good.
Cool. Coming from a smaller school in Ohio, went to UMass, we're getting a lot of looks and everything. Just how much work did it take to actually get it, kind of put on the national level, get noticed and everything like that?
It took an extreme amount of work and dedication. Basically, a grind every day. Every day I had to wake up and find a way to get better and to get to this point.
Slot receivers are obviously in right now. It's kind of the new thing in the NFL. What do you hope to show here? So obviously, playing for John Gruden is a big deal. What do you hope to show him and everything?
I'll just show him that I'm explosive and I could pick up the system fast, and then I could work with other guys and just play fast.
As far as the system's concerned, is it a lot different than college? Obviously, being from UMass, where it may not have been that intricate, coming from a Gruden offense, where it's known to be pretty complicated. How are you adapting to that?
I got kind of lucky. We had Coach Mark Whipple, coach the NFL for the Steelers, Super Bowl champion. I mean, his system's basically almost the same as Gruden's, almost just same concepts and stuff. So I'm picking up fast. I mean, it's still hard. I messed up a couple in walkthrough, so hopefully I get out there and I'm ready to go.
As far as score a touchdown, end zone celebration, something we can look forward to here? Or are you going to kind of keep it humble and low key?
A little humble and low key, but I might have something.
Okay, I'll be watching. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that was Andy Isabella from UMass, one of the top players I think to watch at the Senior Bowl. Like I said in the interview, slot receivers are definitely in right now. The guy grew up actually playing soccer, and soccer was a sport for a while. That shows me he's got great footwork. Not necessarily maybe the perfect fit for the Jaguars right now. We do have a few slot guys, but listen, if you can take this guy deep in the draft, I'm definitely on board with him.
Yeah, he's very interesting. Small, compact kind of guy. Again, goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right, with Hunter Renfrow, where you've got the Edelmans, the Amendolas, the Woodheads. that have set these guys to be very intriguing. It almost feel like if you're going to have success, you almost need one of these guys, this little security blanket. Everybody talks about tight ends being a security blanket, but it feels like these little guys are almost the security blanket because they know where to be. They usually have sure hands. They'll make the play. Let's bring in Marcel Robinson once again. Give us some other news and notes from what you saw in practice. Locke, some of the other quarterbacks.
The next group practicing today, Locke, McSorley, Jones, and Finley. Yeah, they were the next group of quarterbacks coming in. I would say Daniel Jones probably looks the more pro-ready of all them. I know he's been kind of
surprising, right?
No, he's been kind of the guy trending up, and I'm kind of becoming a little bit of a fan myself. He's no wasted movements, which is good. Staying inside in the pocket.
Oh, look at him! He's going all. He does no wasted movements here.
He's very active with his feet, which is good. Drew Lock, obviously, that's kind of the other guy that's really impressed us. Didn't really impress me today. Two things I don't like. One, he's got a lot of wasted movements before he throws the ball. You know, the NFL is all about,
Drew Lock?
Yes, Drew Lock.
And he actually brought that up in his interview today. He said, I could be better in the pocket, just sitting there delivering the ball.
He's got probably a half a second false step before he throws the ball, which could be disastrous in some situations. And for some reason, he wasn't catching his own ball in warm-ups. I got a problem with that.
Oh, come on.
I got a problem with that.
Really?
That's a little bit of a diva type of thing. Save the diva for us wide receivers.
Wait. He's catching the football in warm-ups, and that's a diva?
No, I'm sorry. He was not catching his own. He was the only quarterback not catching his own.
Okay. I was going to say,
the only one?
Sounds impressive.
Not catching his ball. Everyone else catching their ball. I don't like that.
So that is a diva thing.
It's a little much.
It is a little bit of a diva thing.
You feel that way?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, come on, man. You're not in the NFL yet. Hey, you're not
their own football.
Well, guess what? He's not in the NFL yet. Stay humble. This is the Senior Bowl.
Save the diva for us wide receivers.
Exactly. Amen to that.
All he wanted to do is get a wide receiver so he could practice a little diva himself.
And I'll tell you what, who's not a diva at wide receiver? Andy Isabella, man. Keep an eye on him.
Unbelievable that not catching your own football in warm-ups is already an X mark against Drew Lock, believe it or not. That's Marcel Robinson checking in for Action Sports Jacks. See some of the footage of these guys tonight on CBS 47 and Fox 30. When we come back, Zach Goodall from Locked On Jaguars, just out of practice as well here in Mobile, Alabama. He'll talk to us as well. More about some of these intriguing prospects, including QBs, on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and Saints fans will be heard after the refs missed an obvious pass interference call that probably cost the Saints a trip to the Super Bowl. Angry fans have reacted with online petitions, billboards in Atlanta, and actual lawsuits. Meanwhile, the Pats continue to prepare for the team that beat the Saints, and Mike Golick on ESPN 690 this morning thinks it's time for the Pats hate to just stop.
My God, what this guy and this team is doing, and he's the leader of this team, he and Belichick, of what they're doing, maybe instead of hating on them, do we appreciate what they're doing because it's going to be gone in a couple of years? I just wonder if there's a shift that way anywhere.
The big game scheduled for February 3rd at 6:30 can be seen on our sister station, CBS 47 Action News Jacks. And one of the best soccer players in the world got popped big time for tax evasion. Cristiano Ronaldo will ultimately pay a $21.5 million fine, and in doing so will avoid jail time in Spain. Find us online streaming live 24/7 at ESPN690.com.
Attention men, are you suffering from ED or PE? Have Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra failed you? Men's Choice Medical Center can help today. Custom blended medications that are safe, effective, and affordable, even with diabetes, high blood pressure, and prostate issues. Men's Choice Medical Center. Regain your love life. Results guaranteed on your first visit, or you pay nothing. Call 904-290-4211. That's 904-290-4211.
Boss, you're not going to believe it.
Whoa, settle down, Buttercup.
It's all over the internet. You know the ding-dong video cameras that are all the rage?
Yeah.
Well, reports are flooding in that engineers and executives at the company had highly privileged access to camera feeds.
Huh?
Boss, they've been spying on customers.
Really?
Yeah, just do an online search for doorbell spying. It's incredible.
Wow, I spy with my little eye.
Yeah, and since they've been bought out by that big mega corporation, you know customer surveillance can't be far behind.
Ooh, can you say Big Brother is watching?
No kidding. Boss, I don't understand why these folks don't just get a safe touch system. No one's hacking or spying on those things.
Yeah, well, that's another reason why we still have to live by the Crooks or Us motto. Stay away from safe touch houses.
Yeah.
Crooks know to stay away from Safe Touch houses. Hi, I'm Lester Jackson, president of Safe Touch Security Systems. No one beats our technology or our price.
Call Safe Touch today at 888-723-8682 or go to safetouch.com. State license number EF233.
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martineau, week 2 of Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690, and we are already on the road. This week, join us from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, as the Jaguars try to build their roster and get ready for the draft.
You watch Action Sports Jacks on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jacks is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Here's your host, Brent Martineau.
Hey, welcome back here on the show. Brent Martineau along with Austin Lane from Mobile, Alabama. The Senior Bowl, and it's been a busy day. Been a fun day, too, though, as practices are getting set to wrap up, or just about wrapped up out at Ladd-Peebles Stadium. Before we bring in Zach Goodall, we have to finish up Stay in Your Lane. You did the cruise control with Andy Isabella. You'll love that guy here in Mobile.
Oh, yeah.
What about pumping your brakes? What do you got?
Got to pump the brakes on the lunch setup today at the Senior Bowl. I hate to call you guys out, but spoiler alert, a big place where players hate to be bothered is while they're eating lunch, especially taco salads and bean burritos, what it looked like. Not sure I'd have that before practice, but it'd make me a little heavy. To each their own, though, I guess. But yes, please fix the lunch setup here at the Senior Bowl. When I played, we had our own section where we're kind of off to the side. This year, it's right in the middle of the media, so everyone's taking pictures like they're at a zoo, basically, of the players eating.
Nothing better than pictures of you eating.
Yeah, made for a really awkward experience. I could tell in the players' faces it was a little awkward for everybody. I mean, next year, let's just go to the bathroom and do the interviews in the bathroom and start recording, because that could only be the most awkward spot you could think of. So Senior Bowl, step your game up a little bit. You got to pump those brakes.
I vote for the lunchroom instead of the bathroom, all right?
Okay.
By the way, you were serious about this. Like, I said, hey, Austin, you want to go grab some guys? He said, not while they're eating.
Yeah.
Like, he was serious about it.
And if you know me, Brent, I was always open to talking to anybody in the locker room or whatnot. But it's something if you're with your family and you're eating dinner, or if you're in the bathroom, obviously, just kind of let those guys be and ask them, when they're done taking care of business.
Especially if you just had one of those 2,500 calorie garlic shakes.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. Especially if the Altoids are out and everything, man. I mean, the whole car stunk this morning when I was drinking that. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me with my breakfast smoothies.
All right, let's bring in Zach Goodall from Locked On Jaguars. This guy puts in a lot of work right here. He covers the Jags. Really does a lot of stuff on his own, which is pretty cool. It's been fun to watch Zach as he grows up in the business from Ponte Vedra. Play a little football for the Sharks right at Ponte Vedra. And now you started up a podcast. I've been on the podcast before, and really trying to work hard at this football thing from a scouting perspective, media/scouting perspective. How's it going so far? What did you see out there today?
It's been a lot of fun. This is my first time coming out to the Senior Bowl. Last year I did the Shrine Game, and it's a totally different experience. There's a lot more NFL personnel here. Need two hands to list off how many Jags guys you could see here, right? But it's fun to see these guys. I mean, especially at my age, I'm almost as old as these guys. Like, just watching them, fulfill out their dreams. You've got head coaches like John Gruden there saying, hey, I think this guy could be a first-round pick. Then you go and talk to them at their presser, and they hear about them, and their face, lights up. And it's just a really cool process to watch these guys grow as we grow covering them, in a sense, and watching them accomplish their dreams.
Obviously, you're a bit new to it, but what's your observation from the whole thing today, from the media day, with all the players around? And I saw you in on some of the interviews, but not being on the practices. What's your takeaway? What can you gather? How much do you think this means in the grand scheme of things for what eventually will result in the NFL draft and the undrafted free agency?
Well, I think that a lot of teams are really starting to move towards that analytical approach, and we know in Jacksonville that Tony Khan's really helped with that. And I think that's important for the stuff like the measurements, like your guys there. And it's got to be, like you said, embarrassing watching these guys just eating their food. It's got to be embarrassing watching them walk out in tights and stand on a scale in front of 300 dudes, just trying to see how big they are.
Embarrassing for offensive linemen especially.
Oh, without a doubt, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Back when I got weighed in, I was 270 pounds, man, so I kind of look like an offensive lineman a little bit.
So maybe defensive lineman too.
Didn't have a six-pack like I do now.
And kickers. Embarrassing for kickers.
Yeah.
And I think that whole process is really important to these teams, though, because they are factoring in so much what your length is and stuff. Like, when I watch offensive linemen out here, I like to take into account, are they meeting these height, weight, arm length thresholds? And there were some guys out there that I thought really met the Jags standards for that. Boston College guard Chris Lindstrom is going to be a favorite of mine for a long time. I think there's a pure fit here for him in a power scheme. He had over 34-inch arms, and I think he's just like the perfect guy to pair opposite of Andrew Norwell, who was their marquee signing last year.
Speaking of measurements, we have Tyree Jackson sitting a few seats down from us. He came in at 6'7". One of the very touted quarterbacks. Well, I don't want to say touted, but it's kind of a name on the radar right now for quarterbacks here at the Senior Bowl. Did anybody really stand out to on the field today for a quarterback? Because obviously the Jags are in need of a couple. So anybody stand out to?
I thought Jackson actually did a good job. He's known for having a cannon of an arm. Teams want to see him control that. So they had him trying to get a little loftier and put more touch on his balls. And there were times where he struggled, but at the same time, his mechanics still looked relatively poised. He was able to do it for the most part, hit check downs with ease, really. And I thought he's got the greatest intangibles of any guys out here. Pure size at 6'7", 249, and I think I can't even remember, like 35-inch arms, and he's got a cannon.
He's got big hands. They measured the hands today,
Yeah,
and I think he had
yeah.
the biggest of them, which seems like such a silly measurement.
Right.
But for a quarterback, it's not.
Especially when you look back and see that the Jags a couple years ago took Brandon Allen, and there was the story with him where the Senior Bowl he had 8.5-inch hands, and by the combine he had 8 3/4.
Yeah.
And apparently he had did massages every day just to get him bigger. That's how important it is to these teams. Like all the numbers, all the measurements. It's so much more than just like what the common eye sees when you're scouting it.
Yeah, that was a big thing with Bridgewater coming out, too.
Mhm.
I mean, the Jags, I don't think, liked the fact that he had smaller hands. At
Right.
least that was always the kind of like that rumor that came out, like, yeah, they're a little, they're hesitant because of the hands. And I do get it. If you watch that game, the AFC Championship game, cold weather, ball feels like a rock, or anytime you have conditions in that side, you got to think about it in that game. Not a game in September, but you think about it even with Peyton Manning, right? Remember when he played in that Super Bowl and it was raining like a son of a gun?
Yeah.
Well, he practiced all week like that. Those games, these big games, sometimes the conditions aren't great in January, so I get it.
Right.
Like, I really do get it. It seems silly, I think, to the average fan. Like, really? Like an inch? Or, like a quarter of an inch or an eighth of an inch? But Russell Wilson is so good, not just because he's such a great leader and he's a good football player, but that dude, as small as he is, apparently has huge hands.
Huge hands. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they came in somewhere near, if not over 10, which is impressive. I mean,
And you
Daniel
wouldn't
Jones.
match that up.
Daniel Jones, he came in today, and I thought I only got to see a little bit of the North practice, but he was throwing really well against air lifts while I was out there. He's 6'5", 220, and he's got 9.25. And Russell Wilson's, 5'11", he's got over 10. Like, just the combination of sizes that people put together, like, there's so much that goes into it that sometimes it's just hard to keep up with.
All right, let's get your thoughts on what you think the Jags do. You put a lot of work in, you put a lot of scouting report in on these guys, which I don't know where you find the time to watch all this film, but it's pretty good stuff to read. So, again, they're only opinions, but heck, you know what? Some of these scouts walking around, it's only their opinions, too. So it's pretty cool that you put the work in to do it, and then you talk about it on Locked On Jaguars. But just from a philosophical point of view standpoint, how are the Jags, do you think, going to attack this quarterback position here in the next couple of months?
Well, I truly think that there's only one guy that's the type of, face of the franchise quarterback in this draft, and I think it's Dwayne Haskins out
Why?
of Ohio State. For someone as young as him and to only have one season of starting experience, from game 1 to game, 13, there was so much growth in the areas that people were concerned with. Being able to handle pressure, being able to move when he really needed to, being able to place the ball a lot more accurately when going deep. On top of, I think he really fits what they want in their passing offense, being able to hit, the short to intermediate routes where the possession guys like D.D. Westbrook really thrive. I think that's just his bread and butter. I don't know if he's going to be there at 7. They might have to move up. And if they can't, they've got consolation prizes. I think Daniel Jones out of Duke, who's here, is a solid scheme fit. He's not, got the highest ceiling, but I think he's got a solid floor. He's got, halfway connection to Coughlin, being that he's best friends with Eli Manning. So there's something like that. I get the Foles connection. He's going to be expensive. I can't imagine that he takes anything less than what his option's worth, which is like $20 million. So the Jags would have to move a lot of money around. But if they could do it, I don't see any way that fans could be upset with Foles either. The Super Bowl MVP, he's your quarterback, I'd take that.
So if you go Foles, though, do you pick a quarterback as high as we're talking?
Not in the first. I still think you take one before day 2 ends. Maybe with one of those 2 day 3 picks that you've got, there are definitely some project type of guys out there that they could look into for that.
I'll ask you the question that I ask everybody else. If I give you an above-average QB, Flacco, Foles, whatever, not a guy going to the Pro Bowl, but above-average QB, a playmaker at wideout and a playmaker at tight end, You feel good about the 2019 season. You know, all these other things are going to happen. They'll cut Malik Jackson. You know, maybe they keep Deshaun Gibson. All these other things will happen. But I'm telling you, those three are the biggest three moves they make. Do you feel good about the 19 season?
Absolutely. And I think Foles is probably that guy out of any of the free agents just because of what he's shown he can do. And he really does not have much wear and tear on him because he's been a starter to backup. Like he doesn't have a ton of mileage on him. So I'd like him to come in, and honestly, he could probably play a long time. But you get him, there's a lot of playmaking receivers in this group, whether it be the bigger guys like the David Sills, the N'Keal Harrys, or you go with a guy like Deebo Samuel, who's got the most sure hands out of anyone in this group. He's really athletic. He can play all three spots, even though he's only 6 feet tall. You add playmakers, even with above average quarterback, and you know they've got a good offensive line when they're healthy. They've got a great defense. I think you can put it together like that.
Speaking of Deebo Samuel, did he really stand out today at the practices, or who was the one guy? Because obviously the Jags are in line for a receiver as well. Did anybody really stand out today? I mean, I get it, it's the first day, still getting in line with the quarterbacks a little bit, trying to get that camaraderie and whatnot. Anybody stand out big time for you today?
There was Samuel for sure, and you could tell that he had the want to be out there and competing. And he came in at average height for a receiver at 6 foot, I think 216, but he's got long arms for a dude at that size, so he can definitely compete for contested balls. But he had one drop on a pass that came at him kind of behind. Otherwise, you know, he was making great adjustments, timing his catches perfectly out of breaks. I thought he did great. There was a tight end, Foster Moreau, who actually played at LSU with DJ Chark and Leonard Fournette. I talked to him before the practices, and he said that he's got a great relationship with both of them. Leonard's even, considered him to be an honorary Fournette, is what he liked to say. So that's something I want to talk to Leonard
I don't think
about.
we're in that club, by the way.
He's regarded as a blocking guy. He can be a little stiff athletically, but I think he matches the mold that they want as a true lead blocking tight end who can go and make a play because he's got a big body.
And the thing with Deebo Samuel, too, I've been hearing about is just how intense that guy is. You know, I mean, they call him Deebo for a reason. Did you see that outside of it? I mean, was he blocking a lot? I mean, was he finishing the plays and everything like that? Even the balls that he wasn't getting, was he finishing plays?
He definitely was, and he's really high energy. He's a guy that you want to have in your receiver room because he wants to give it his all, and you get as maximum effort out of him in whatever he's doing. He's got special teams ability as well, and I'm sure that's something the Jags would look into.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch Deebo Samuel from South Carolina, probably the biggest name wide receiver here of the group at the Senior Bowl in Mobile.
And a fun fact about him is also scored a touchdown 5 different ways this past season.
Well, that's the thing.
Didn't know that was possible.
How do they use him in the NFL? Do they use him on special teams, too? Gives you that versatility. He does have a little bit of injury history, too, that will concern teams and raise some red flags as well. Zach Goodall from Locked On Jaguars. Nice job, man.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, that's the debut here on this show, but hopefully you'll join us as we go. One of the big concepts with launching this radio station and this new show, get some fresh voices on in town, and Zach Goodall is one of them. Check him out on Locked On Jaguars, that podcast. And you got T. Wig joining you on the podcast in a few months, right?
That's right. He's going to be coming on and replacing my co-host, who's going to cover the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Awesome. Good stuff. Good job for you guys. A bunch of young guys in the area trying to get after it and get it done. Nice job by Zach Goodall. One more segment to go from Mobile, Alabama, and the Senior Bowl. We'll put a bow on our coverage on a Tuesday. It's been a fun day here on ESPN 690.
Hey everybody, this is Brent Martineau and Austin Lane from Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. We hit the road to Mobile, Alabama in the Senior Bowl.
I was a 2010 alum scoring touchdowns. Now I'm covering the touchdowns. I'm going to give you some Jags insider information, who the Jags looking at, who's looking good at the Senior Bowl practices. We'll check it out.
We'll break it all down from Mobile, Alabama.
Last time I was at the Senior Bowl, I tried to tap a keg and didn't go so well. I tried to redeem that.
3 to 6 on ESPN 690.
I'm Julie Harrell. Accidents don't just happen from 9 to 5. They can happen anytime, and usually at the worst time. Holidays, weekends, and even in the middle of the night. Harrell & Harrell will always be there for you, 24 hours a day. We'll be there to help make it better. Call us anytime, day or night, and we'll answer the phone. Call 251-1111. Harrell & Harrell. Don't settle for less than you deserve.
Offices, Jacksonville.
Dave Benyon with Zurez. We love fine Oriental rugs. Ivan just completed his comprehensive training and was certified a master rug cleaner, one of only 140 in the entire country. Oriental rugs are like a fine work of art, and they should not be cleaned the same way as wall-to-wall carpet. Ivan is hands-on with every step of the cleaning process for each individual rug that comes into his shop. Right now, have Zurez wash one rug, and we will wash a second rug for half price. Zurez spelled forward or backwards, it's the right way to clean.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to. Nope. I'm sure you've got a perfectly good excuse. Kids, work. I get it. You're busy. So what better time than now? Let's begin. Raise one finger if you're a man. Ladies, none yet. Oh, count in your head if you're driving. Now, 3 more fingers for everyone over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40, 1 more if you're not physically active, another finger if anyone in your family has type 2 diabetes, another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger, 2 if you're very overweight, and 3 if you're really overweight. You've just taken the world's first audio prediabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit doihaveprediabetes.org or talk to your doctor. There's no excuse because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Sports Center updates at the top and bottom of every hour. And the latest breaking news in sports around the clock. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690. This is Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau
on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Do you get that reference from my dry erase board? Probably not.
I don't know. Read it to the listeners. Not everybody's watching.
Yeah, we got Tom Trebo from Upper Peninsula State University. Any Squidbilly fans out there that watch on Adult Swim? That was an episode featuring Tom Trebo and Chad Johnson actually was in that episode as well.
Thank you very
Squidbillies.
Thank you very much for referencing that.
You're welcome,
I would
Culture,
never
Brent.
have got it.
All about the culture, baby.
I'm watching a guy dribble a basketball.
Dude, he's going back and
Is that
forth.
a soccer ball or a basketball?
No, so
like with his feet, I'm saying.
Yeah, so it looks like a basketball. Oh, he just messed up a little bit.
Come on, dude.
Coming in at about a 6'2", maybe 6'3", about probably a $195. This dude is literally dribbling on his feet a basketball, it looks like, and just going back and forth with it. Rocking the black shoes, white socks combo. Debatable, in my opinion. I'm gonna dock him some points
Marcel
with that for
Robinson
sure.
says thumbs down.
Marcel's getting a
Fashion
thumbs
police.
down. His draft socks dropping with each kick that he does with those ridiculous shoes he's wearing, but interesting.
All right, welcome back here to Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. That's how we will cover it all here. Out the window here at the hotel in Mobile, Alabama, watching a dribbler on the soccer field or concrete. Brett Martineau, Austin Lane, putting a bow on a Tuesday show. It's been a really good day. I mean, a lot of good insight. Thanks to Zach Goodall for coming on. Marcel Robinson out of practice, sharing some of his thoughts on the QBs. Tom Coughlin out there, Doug Marone out there. A lot of members of the Jags staff out there scouting. Of course, Dave Caldwell. I didn't see him yet here, but I saw Chris Polian, and I know Caldwell is here. It's good to see all the Jags, and you just wonder what they're looking at. What are we missing in terms of positional need for the Jags? Because, again, I will admit, I am wrapped up in this. I'm consumed by the 3 positions of QB, tight end as a playmaker, and a wide receiver playmaker. And I honestly don't think we're seeing a number 1 wide receiver here. Like, I think the Jags need. I think they're fine. If they got a number 1 wide receiver, again, let's go dream big, and you could just put anybody, and this is like Madden, like on PlayStation or something, and you bring over Antonio Brown. Well, then wouldn't you feel great about your receiving core? Marquise Lee, D.D. Westbrook, DJ Chark, maybe a Keelan Cole if he even makes a team at that point. Yeah, you would. So I think the search is on for a playmaking number 1 type of wide receiver. I don't think you get that, most likely, here at the Senior Bowl. But we all think those positions are of need for the Jags. What are we missing? Do they need more offensive linemen? Do they need another running back? Do they need something on defense that we're missing?
You can never have too many offensive linemen, obviously. I mean, it has been kind of the trend to talk about offense because that's what the team lacked this past season. You know, while our defense may not have been as good as last year, I mean, granted, Houston, our first game of the season 2 years ago, padded our stats a little bit. I think we had 8 or 9 sacks that game. 10 sacks. So that definitely padded the stats. But, you know, I think our defense is going to be okay. If I was to change one thing, and we've kind of talked about it before a little bit, you know, Miles Jack at that middle linebacker spot, I get it. You know, he can play down. The guy can play anywhere. The guy can play running back if you needed him to. But I think with a guy with that kind of athleticism, that kind of speed, that kind of sideline-to-sideline speed, you'd want to see him go on the outside a little more. You know, you'd want to see him use that athleticism because in NFL schemes, you don't hardly ever see the most athletic person, arguably, on defense play middle linebacker. Usually he's going to be the Sam, and sometimes he's going to be the Will, the weak side linebacker. Get him on the line a little bit, get him rushing the passer. And unfortunately, we have Telvin Smith, who's going to maintain that role. Leon Jacobs stepped up this year on the outside, played pretty well. He still has some things to learn. So if we can bring maybe like a free agent in at middle linebacker, hey, Sean Lee might be available. You just don't know. I feel like that could be a big get for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And that's more of a maybe addition by subtraction type of thing, if you feel that way, and that would involve Telvin Smith. What are you going to do with him? I don't think he's a tradable guy because I don't think a lot of schemes and fits see a slightly, from a pound standpoint, a slight linebacker in that spot. He fits here. He's a playmaking guy, but he also misses a lot of tackles because of his weight. And that means you're now bumping a Pro Bowl linebacker out of the way from Miles Jack. That's a tough thing to do from a perception standpoint.
Yeah.
But Miles Jack has always been an interesting deal around here. It's like they want to put him everywhere, but they don't really know exactly where to put him because Puslesny was in the way, Telvin Smith was in the way. I don't disagree with you. I feel like they might have two will linebackers, two weak side linebackers, but I don't think that's changing here in 2019.
What are your thoughts about strong side, playing Sam? Can you see him fit that position?
He tried it, he didn't like it, and also it doesn't matter because it's 30% of the time.
Yeah.
It's really, there will be some games where Leon Jacobs wasn't even active.
Yeah.
Because if you play, say, the Patriots, or if you play, like next year you play the Chiefs, well, you're not worried about a downhill running game. So you're not going to play Leon Jacobs. You're going to play probably an extra nickel guy most of the time. So I just think from a play percentage standpoint, he'll still go back to the Mike spot most of the time. And I don't necessarily, you're not saying he's a bad Mike linebacker.
Oh, no, not at all.
He's not utilizing his skills as much.
And you know what it reminds me of is the Green Bay Packers when, obviously Clay Matthews had a few good years playing, that outside linebacker, that defensive end kind of spot, lining up outside the tackles and rushing the passer. Clay Matthews was super athletic, he was the best pass rusher on the Green Bay Packers. Well, they moved him to middle linebacker for a little bit, and Clay did fine, but like you've seen him play outside linebacker, what he's capable of. So you just want to see a guy be used in a situation where he can use his talents to the best of his abilities. And unfortunately, I think playing that middle linebacker spot with Miles Jack's athleticism, his speed, sometimes he can't really showcase that just for the fact that he's got to play downhill.
Kuechly play in the middle?
Kuechly, oh yeah.
So, but he's able because they talk about him as like a great coverage linebacker. It feels like they utilize his skill set though in the middle.
And the thing with Luke is the fact that he can diagnose. He has a real mind for the game. They always talk about it as far as recognizing the offense and the audibles out of it and what kind of plays are coming. There's nobody better than Luke Kuechly when it comes to that. So, and that's another thing too. It's being the general. Is Miles Jack really that field general? I'll tell you what, I played with Paul Plesney, man, and Paul Plesney was that guy. Anything that, someone would check into, Paul Plesney would call it, and he would switch the defense. He would audible out of our defense and pick something else. It's just, you got to have that mindset. And sometimes that means sacrificing some speed and athleticism to make a call as opposed to, being a strong, being a whip, and being able to kind of play a little more as opposed to calling the defenses out all the time.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. It really is because are you utilizing your guys in the best way possible? And that's what you want to do. But if you have a spot that's already needed, then you might not be able to. You can't put two guys in the same spot. So it is pretty fascinating. And you hurt one. Here's a good example of it. Taven Bryan this year, right? The Jags didn't necessarily need Taven Bryan playing the three technique position. They needed a backup for Calais Campbell, wanted to groom somebody to give Calais Campbell a little bit of a rest, so later in the year he'd have a lot left at his age, and he had played so many snaps the previous year. Oh, my goodness, Taven Bryan looks so out of place.
Oh, yeah.
In that spot at the defensive end. He goes back the last quarter of the season to defensive tackle, that three technique spot, and he started to look more like a guy that you could see, okay, I understand why they might have used this pick on him.
Yeah, and exactly, and that comes down to the fact of knowing what you have, as a staff. Taven Bryan, I always say he was a luxury pick, because we obviously didn't need him. I think the I think the Jaguars kind of had like that whole Giants philosophy where you can never have too many pass rushers. But that was the thing. In Florida, he got most of his sacks from playing that three technique, and you saw, and I get it. Sometimes you want to put the most athletes as possible on the field when you're trying to rush the passer. But you saw it firsthand with Taven Bryan just wasn't comfortable in space because there's a difference from rushing from that 5 technique, rushing from that 7 outside the tight end. There is more space where you have to use your speed a little more, use your savvy. And if you're playing 3 technique, man, it's more you can bull rush and things like that, and everything happens so much faster. It's just the fact that he was kind of out of place, and you saw what happened once they start putting him in the 3 technique a little more, exactly what he could bring to the table.
All right, we got to go in seconds. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, should they be in the Hall of Fame?
Give me a night to sleep on it.
By the way, I say yes. I don't think they'll get in, but I hope they do get in. I think both should be in. The Hall of Fame class will be voted on tonight. Mariano Rivera will lead the way, and he deserves to be in, and he should be 100%.
It better be 100% because there's never been 100%. Well, what is the case with that? Ken Griffey wasn't even 100%.
It's crazy. Derek Jeter.
Guy's got his own video game. Can't even get 100% Hall of Fame voted. Give me a break.
Yeah, Mariano Rivera certainly should be. Hey, fantastic day here at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Thanks for joining us on all the different platforms here on ESPN 690. Action Sports Jacks on the radio. Back in Mobile tomorrow, 3 o'clock. More interviews from some of the prospects and more talk from some of the practices. For Austin Lane, Justin Kuzart, Marcel Robinson, and Stuart Weber, I'm Brent Martineau. See you on TV tonight.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and Saints fans will be heard after the refs missed an obvious pass interference call that probably cost the Saints a trip to the Super Bowl. Angry fans have reacted with online petitions, billboards in Atlanta, and actual lawsuits. Meanwhile, the Pats continue to prepare for the team that beat the Saints, and Mike Golick on ESPN 690 this morning thinks it's time for the Pats hate to just stop.
My God, what this guy and this team is doing, and he's the leader of this team, he and Belichick, of what they're doing, maybe instead of hating on them, do we appreciate what they're doing because it's going to be gone in a couple of years? I just wonder if there's a shift that way anywhere.
The big game scheduled for February 3rd at 6:30 can be seen on our sister station, CBS 47 Action News Jacks. And one of the best soccer players in the world got popped big time for tax evasion. Cristiano Ronaldo will ultimately pay a $21.5 million fine, and in doing so will avoid jail time in Spain. Find us online streaming live 24/7 at ESPN690.com.
At World Imports, we're car people. We love cars. If you're in the market for a luxury pre-owned automobile, we can help.